Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raise hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder, this is a video conference. Per Bagley Keene requirements, all cameras must be kept on during the duration of the meeting. If you are unable to have your camera on, you must indicate a reason for your non-appearance during the meeting. Please be aware of your surroundings behind you. All committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar's website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select enable auto transcript. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Welcome, everyone. We've got a busy agenda, busy calendar, lots of folks here. So why don't we get started with roll call and we'll jump into the agenda.
Sure, we'll do Elseraff.
Here.
Connolly.
Here.
Escobedo.
Here.
Milrod.
Here.
Okay, thank you so much. Alicani.
Here.
Babcock.
Here.
Babcock. Or sorry,
Here.
Blakemore absence. Sorry. Campbell.
Here.
Galkin.
Here.
Gonzalez. Absent. Huang. All right. King.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here.
Morales. Pryor.
Here.
Judge Rosie.
Here.
Sandville. Smith.
Here.
Stalker. Absent. And then our advisors, Justice Rodriguez.
Here.
You, Judge Juan Gutierrez. Judge Yang.
Present, and I'm on vacation, so I apologize. My camera is not on.
No problem. All right, taking a note of our liaisons, Selena Copeland from LAC.
Present.
Thank you. Melanie Snyder from Judicial Council.
I'm here. Thanks.
And then also noting Lauren Klein from LAC as well. I think I saw your screen as well. Okay, and then I'll just make a note of State Bar staff, Dwan, myself, and Kim, and then I'll add as more folks join for their relative presentations. We have 14 voting members and we have quorum.
Terrific. Thank you, Crystal. Let's go to public comment. And given the way that our agenda or what we've got on our agenda, I'm going to limit to 2 minutes for public comments. So if you have a public comment, please
Let me
indicate. I know we have one in person, so I'm going to turn it to.
Yeah, there's someone in person here. I'll turn my camera around for him.
Is it
2 minutes.
or even I sign up? I sign up before.
It's 2 minutes.
It's still 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, all members. My name is Kai On from Sacramento. I would like to talk about State Bar's integrity issue. Sacramento DA office and police provide me fake information about the death of my father, Woon Kong On, DA case number 99F08735. I filed State Bar complaint for Sacramento DA, Mr. Tieno, and Attorney General, Mr. Robert Bonter, but because they did not investigate. I report the incident to their agency back in January 2024. In February this year, State Bar used an incorrect reason to dismiss my complaint and claim it is a civil matter. Then State Bar intentionally keep delaying to process my complaint review request. In September, State Bar closed my complaint without reviewing DA case F08735 to confirm my father, Woon Kong On, was the victim and Jung So Fong was sentenced for hit and run that killed my father. Also, the letter from State Bar has no name, no title, and no signature. I cannot verify if my campaign were closed by authorized state bar staff. State bar is helping to cover up a Sacramento law enforcement scandal. I have requested an internal investigation, but it didn't happen. I have emailed the detail and evidence to this committee. All committee member, why you serve state bar that has integrity issue? How state bar qualified to examine and regulate licensed attorney in California? Please work with other committee to make sure an internal investigation will be conducted inside state bar to keep an integrity legal system and integrity state bar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It looks like we have a few hands raised in the attendees. Should we go to Steph Carroll first?
Hello, Steph Carroll?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you so much to the Commission for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Stephanie Carroll. I'm the Directing Attorney of Public Counsel's Consumer Rights and Economic Justice team, the team that will be directly impacted by the award of the CalHFA 2 funding. Public Counsel's been at the forefront of foreclosure prevention work in LA County for decades, and we've seen more predatory home improvement lending cases than any other legal services organisation in the state. Over the past 3 years, my small consumer team, with the help of state bar funding for home ownership preservation and debt collection defence, has achieved financial benefits for individual direct services clients of over $6.5 million and has saved 65 homes from foreclosure. Those are real and palpable results that my team worked really, really hard to achieve. But in December, the consumer debt grant funding ends and won't be replaced, and now we're faced with an award far short of what we applied for and far short of what was allocated in the original recommendations. The funding recommendation for public counsel is now around 39% of what we applied for, and that's almost 20% less than the original recommendations. We understand there are lots of organisations and areas that deserve and should be funded with this money. Our own proposal included help for Kern and Ventura counties. But in the proposed reallocations, LA County has taken a huge hit and will only get 18% of total funding when it is, by a wide margin, the epicentre of foreclosure, poverty and debt collection in this state. As evidenced by the citations in the letter we sent yesterday, 1/4 of the state lives in LA County. 1/3 of current foreclosures are in LA County. Over 1/3 of debt collection actions are filed in LA Superior Court, and less than 5% of people respond there. We have the highest levels of poverty in the state, and we've just suffered one of the worst natural disasters California has ever seen. We comment today with the aim for equity so the low-income homeowners can get their fair share of resources for LA based on the need, as demonstrated by those metrics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sergio Perez.
Hi, this is Sergio Perez. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, I think we lost Sergio.
I see him.
Okay, there we go.
Hi.
Can you hear us, Sergio?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you.
Apologies for the technical difficulties.
Not a problem. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, esteemed members of the Commission. My name is Sergio Perez, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Center for Human Rights in Constitutional Law. I'm here to speak on the matter related to my team today. I'd like to thank you for your careful consideration of the item and to thank the State Bar staff that created the report before you today. They have been professional, nuanced, and collaborative in their approach and are a testament to public service. The center was a victim of employee embezzlement in 2024, and it suffered a temporary loss of funds of approximately $80,000. The theft took place during a difficult and unprecedented confluence of events triggered by the extended and ultimately fatal illness that took the life of its founder and then executive director. Through hard effort by center staff, no public funds were lost. The center recovered all stolen funds by requiring the former employee to return a portion of the stolen money and also successfully pursuing an insurance claim that made it whole. We do understand that the theft of funds could have been discovered earlier and that necessary notice should have been provided to the State Bar in a timely manner. The center welcomes technical advice and engagement from State Bar staff to boost its efforts in ensuring such results never repeat, especially when it comes to satisfying its financial fiduciary responsibilities. For that reason, we are in full agreement and support the bar's recommendations. The center carries out important and necessary work in the service of the people of California, with a focus on securing dignity and respect for the rights of immigrants and refugees. And the organization has an extensive and positive record of managing funds it receives from the State Bar and ensuring that the people of California benefit from its efforts to secure justice. The State Bar is an invaluable partner in that work, and without it, we wouldn't be able to carry on. Thank you so much for your time and continuing support.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lee Farron.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Lee Farron. I'm with One Justice. We would like to offer public comments primarily on item 6. In the interest of time, I will skip the ones that I agree with, but just know that there are a number of those that I do agree with. For item 6.1 for the surveys and intake census, I think we would like to better understand the bar's interest in collecting that information and in collecting that information, understanding what it is that they want to be collected as early as possible, because it can be very difficult for grantees to shift systems partway through a grant year to accommodate some of these data requests. For recommendation 5, our particular concern is the example in the memo of a support center engaging in leadership training as a non-qualifying activity. A large part of the work that One Justice does as a support center could arguably fall under that description, as we work with leaders and staff at legal service organizations across the state to implement best practices, navigate change management, and create effective programs. We understand the desire of the bar to know what non-qualifying activities QLSPs and support centers engage in, and we're not opposed to the additional specificity, but we are concerned about the example of leadership training as a non-qualifying activity. We don't believe that's an appropriate example. And just lastly, for item 6.5, One Justice, as one of the leaders of the Community Justice Worker Group, appreciates the PDI committee's work in reviewing the proposal and for being willing to be engaged with all of us. We look forward to continuing the conversations as we're working on the proposal and with stakeholders around the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Andres Rappaport.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the commission for allowing me the opportunity to speak and for the bar's partnership and continued commitment to legal services. I'm Director of Litigation at Neighborhood Legal Services of LA County. We've been providing legal services to the LA community for 60 years. As Stephanie Carroll from Public Counsel mentioned, we've seen a disproportionate cut. The Los Angeles County has seen a disproportionate cut to allocations with the CalHFA fund awards. And just wanted to highlight the disproportionate need that also exists in LA. Nearly 1 in 4 low-income homeowners in California lives in Los Angeles County. And LA also has the most mobile home parks and mobile home spaces in the state of California. And this is one of the last remaining sources of affordable housing in the state, if not the country. It's seen the most property assessed clean energy loan assessments in the state, which notoriously resulted in equity stripping fraud schemes in California. And NLS has developed a comprehensive project to meet these crushing statistics, covering everything from foreclosure education and prevention, legal assistance with consumer debt and bankruptcy, litigation to restore title to defrauded homeowners and victims of equity stripping schemes like PACE, an emphasis on legal assistance to mobile homeowners, and even estate planning services for low-income homeowners who are most at risk of being able to transfer any sort of intergenerational wealth to their families and within their communities. We saw an over 50% reduction from our proposed budget. And so just asking that the commission revisit those allocations for Los Angeles legal service providers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Diego Cartagena.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Diego Cartagena, President and CEO of BetSedec Legal Services. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the CalHFA funding recommendations. BetSedec would like to note its concern with the changes made to the initial funding recommendations. In particular, the recent allocations shifted significantly from the initial recommendations, with some organizations now receiving as little as 31% and others up to 98% of their requested funds, despite no change in scoring. The rationale for these changes to distribute funds more broadly across the state was not stated goal in the original application process. This approach disproportionately reduced funding for Los Angeles County providers, as others have noted, despite LA's population being larger than the next 3 largest counties combined, and the fact that we face the highest rates of poverty, housing, unaffordability, and foreclosures. And the omission of geographic spread as a priority in the application process therefore deprived applicants of the chance to address this point. Given these issues, we would respectfully request that at the very least future funding allocations not use the same redistribution logic, and that there be flexibility in the use of fellowship and program funds to ensure program continuity and mitigate funding reductions. We remain grateful for the opportunity to serve our communities and support all of our sibling organizations, but respectfully urge the Commission to reconsider the allocation method. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have Julia Scalise.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioners. Mine is a relatively brief comment. It just is related to the revisions to the IOLTA EAF application process and the important consideration of timeliness, which we agree, of course, is so important. On behalf of our Chief Financial Officer, I just want to add a comment about the 990 submissions and about the timing of when organizations file their 990s versus when the IOLTA applications are due, and just consideration about that would be handled. For example, we file our 990 after the May IOLTA deadline, and just would request that the Commission and staff consider flexibility either in when the 990 is submitted or the ability to submit a previous 990, because as I said, we understand that the revisions are very important and we want to ensure that we are timely. I thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It looks like we've gone through the public comments that we've had. Are there any other? Okay, so Selena.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on stack. I have a few comments. This is from the Legal Aid Association of California, and we've talked with organizations. A lot of it's largely on item 5 and item 6, but I'll be fast. Item 5 is a consent agenda, and I just wanted to note that we've had a lot of conversations about the investment policy, and our understanding based on those meetings is that there's no segregation of funds needed, because I know a lot of organizations were worried about that, and that a pro rata calculation of the interest accrued is acceptable, and that there's no requirement to spend down the interest accrued on IOLTA or other state bar grants, as long as when they are spent, it is done on qualifying work. So just wanted to raise what we believe is the requirement. So if that's not the requirement, then there may need to be a discussion. And on item 6, item 6.1, we had a lot of folks who were just worried that there would be a huge intake in surveys or data collection. So if this is just meant to codify current practice and require the intake census, then we support. But if it's in contemplation of a lot more data collection, organizations were really worried about that. And on item 6.2, we largely support most of those, actually. The one that I was concerned about was the non-qualifying work, but on a subsequent conversation with Dwan, she shared that the leadership training was not meant to refer to leadership training of lawyers and legal professionals, but leadership training of youth. So if that is the case, then I think a lot of our community is concerned about that example, is just because of the missing of the word youth, because if youth were there, we would know it's not a leadership training of lawyers. And I think that with recommendation 7, although that's new, I think that would be incredibly reasonable. Organizations are already preparing their 990, and it may be a simplified system for you to be able to make sure that all the data is matching up, and then having a checkbox and at the time of the IOLTA application to disclose any history of fraud, misappropriation, or embezzlement may just be a good reminder of the grant agreements. And just one very quick comment is that we also support the recommendation of staff in item 6.6. I think that's an incredibly generous recommendation of staff, and I urge the commission to support that recommendation.
Thank you, Selena. All right, Lauren.
Sorry, muted. Hi, everyone. Another comment from LAC. This is on item 6.4, the CalHFA grants. We wanted to express our appreciation to the Program Development and Impact Committee for all the work that went into getting these funding determinations made, particularly on a very tight timeline. We also wanted to thank the committee for listening to community feedback. There was a lot of feedback about the funds not reaching some areas of the state where there is need, and so we appreciate the committee reconsidering. That being said, I just wanted to impress upon the commission the importance of these funds and the dramatic nature of the need for these kinds of services. There were 3 times more requests for funding than funding was available, which I'm sure makes apparent the dramatic need. And when there's that much need and not enough funding to go around, of course, there will be some disappointment and some need that doesn't get met. You've heard several public comments today about Los Angeles programs not receiving enough funding to meet the need in their area. There were also programs that were funded with previous iterations of this funding that were doing really important services for their community that will have to end those programs because they did not get funded in this round. So I hope that all these factors can be considered in future iterations of this funding. And I will say that LAC is committed to seeking more funding for this purpose because it is such an important and dramatic need. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Okay. So thank you all for the public comments that we've heard today. As you can tell, there's going to be a lot to discuss as we get into the substantive portion of the agenda. And I do want to take a moment, and this is in the context of now the chair's report on the agenda. I do want to take a moment and thank the community, the legal services community, who have been very engaged with our commission, with our committees, with staff on a variety of issues that have been coming up recently, some of which we'll be discussing now, some of which we won't be discussing today because of feedback that we've gotten, and we're hoping to get it right before we bring it to the commission. And I just want to say, especially in this environment, this current environment where there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of pain that's being suffered across the industry, the community, and it's only with the help of each other that we can get through this, because there's a lot to wade through. There's a lot of things that we want to understand as commissioners, and we want to make sure that we hear from the community. And I also want to thank the commissioners who've been dedicating a lot of time on working groups and on committees to making sure that we walk through a lot of these issues in advance of a commission meeting so that we can have a robust discussion. There has been a lot, and I know that a variety of you have spent hours and hours and hours, many of you, most of you, analyzing these issues. And then, a special thank you to the staff who've been the engine driving all of this. And only with that help have we been able to have any of these substantive discussions or be able to hear and work through these issues as much as we have. So thank you to everybody. I'm looking forward to a great discussion today. And we have a variety of things that we're going to get through. We'll start with, I'll turn it over to Dwan for the director's report, and we'll do a variety of other reports before we get into the meat.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I just wanted to highlight that this is the first meeting of our new term, and this is usually where we welcome our new commissioners. However, this year, as you all know, there were no commissioners terming off, so we do not have any new appointments. So again, we just welcome to everyone. Next year, though, we will have a few seats that we'll have to fill from the Trust Fund Commission side and also from the State Bar side. I want to now kind of transition and provide some revenue updates for you. The first being our IOLTA revenue. So if you've been following the news, you may know that the Federal Reserve has now started to cut interest rates. We've had 2 interest rates drop since the last time we've met. We were at around 4.5%. And then September 17th, there was a 25 basis point cut to 4.25%. And then last week on October 29th, there was another 0.25% drop there, and we're at 4% now. The Federal Reserve is meeting one more time before the year ends, and it's uncertain whether there's going to be another cut there. However, even if there's another cut there, that cut won't impact our funding until January 1st. So for the remainder of the year, we should be good on revenue. So we've now gone back and kind of rejiggled our projection for 2025. We are now revising our projection to be $198 million in total revenue. This is going to be a $16 million increase from what you all projected a few months ago when we took our recommendation to the Board of Trustees. At that time, we were projecting $181 million. So we will be netting about $16 million at the end of the year more. 2026 and 2027, this is where we're going to really feel the hit in the drop in interest rates. And we knew this was coming, so we built this into our projection, but it's going to be a painful drop. So we, after modeling this now, we are projecting to end 2026 at about 3%. So we're projecting a 0.25% at every successive Federal Reserve meeting. If we use a calculator that averages out what the forecast is. So depending on there are other forecasters that are predicting kind of a more dramatic and others less. I mean, I think the one thing to keep in mind is there will be changes depending on who's going to be the new Federal Reserve chair. So we have our eyes on that. That's going to be happening in May. So depending on who it is will kind of drive how deep the cuts will be. And we just can't predict. It's so volatile right now. We've modeled it in 3%. With that, though, let me share with you the new amount that we're thinking for 2026 is $143 million total revenue. So this would be $122 million in IOLTA and another $20 million in our other kind of revenue streams that go into our distribution of IOLTA. For 2027, we are hoping that will stay at about the 3% mark, and that will level out and will yield about $132 million in total revenue for 2027, which will comprise of $111 million for IOLTA and another $20 million in reserves. But I have to note, and you hear me say this every time, projecting out that far in advance is just very, very difficult. And I don't know if Tammy wants to say a little bit more, being on the banking side, if there's anything that you want to add to that. But it's very hard to project out even a year out, given the volatility of the market and everything that's happening with the political climate. But that is the best we can do. And I know that the commission likes a projection from us, as do programs. So usually after these commission meetings, we send out an email to programs to let them know what we are projecting for the following year, so they have a sense of what to budget. But Tammy, I don't know if you want to say anything about our revenue projections and interest rates.
No, I don't have anything else to add. I think you articulated that well. It's just such an uncertain time. We do rely on, some of the professionals out there to forecast and help, come up with not so much the methodology, but the calculation. So it's uncertain. I can't add anything more other than, I think we've done our best in trying to calculate or forecast the future revenue. So thank you to the staff for doing that.
And so what I will say is, we've been distributing kind of blockbuster amounts of annual distributions. So even though it will be dropping significantly next year, I do want to remind the commission as well as the community that, right before the pandemic, our kind of watershed amount was 55 million. So if we're still pulling out 100 million, I'm hoping when it bottoms out, it won't go too much below 75 million. These are still kind of very large historical amounts. We've been trying to communicate with programs regularly that the distribution for the 2025 as well as 2026 are really anomalies. And this is why the commission has moved to allow programs suspended over 4 years so they can better plan for the drop, because we knew the drop was going to happen. So the drop is happening now. So there are a lot of things that we are trying to strategize that we will be discussing more with the commission at the February planning meeting, and how we kind of blunt the dropped, and how we kind of lean into perhaps our communications plan around leadership banks, what we can do to kind of mitigate some of these losses. We've also been in communication. We're part of kind of the National IOLTA Programs Association. So we've been in communication with other states on strategies, and those will all be shared with you at the February planning meeting. The other update that I want to give you is on the federal funding landscape. So we attended a briefing a few weeks ago with Ron Flagg, who's the president of the Legal Services Corporation. As you know, we fund 11 of those LSC programs, and they are projecting flat funding for 2026. And this is really good. LSC is on the White House's rescission list, but they are hopeful that they have bipartisan support. So at least it will be flat funding for another year. I can't report better news on kind of the other funding cuts. There are dramatic cuts on other funding streams. There's a lot of funding cuts at the local level. We are monitoring them closely and paying really close attention to FEMA cuts that are already happening now in other states that haven't quite hit California, but we do anticipate some cuts there. So we'll do a full report on cuts at the February planning meeting. Our office did publish a report recently that was drafted on the impacts of federal funding cuts. Sylvia Nam in our office's senior program analyst drafted that. We shared it with the community, and we will be sharing that with the commission following this meeting. And with that, I am going to turn it over to some of my time over to Melanie and Selena for the Judicial Council and the LAC report. So Melanie, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thanks so much, Dawn. I will make this quick, but I want to touch on the nominations that you spoke of. The Judicial Council nominates about a third of the members for the Trust Fund Commission, and we anticipate the nomination cycle to start in January. So if there are any members that are currently appointed by the Chief Justice who no longer wish to serve, can you please let me know? And we will keep you posted, and in the January we'll circulate the new application and all the rules for applying. So if there are any interested parties out there who would like to serve, please keep your eye out and look for this information that'll be coming. Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you, Melanie. Selena, do you have any updates from LAC?
Sure, and I'll keep them very brief because I know this is going to be a long meeting. But for the liaison report, just wanted to let you know this is actually a Judicial Council project, the Shriver grants, but I serve on the Shriver Grant Selection Committee, and I think the applications are due today. So many of your grantees are frantically filling out their Shriver grant applications, but it's a great funding source. I think we're going to be giving out about $18 million a year for the next 3 years. And I'm hoping that it's enough funds that will be able to expand to other parts of the state that don't currently have a Shriver project, because that has been incredibly successful and so much data. And Melanie is one of the key staff on that project as well. And the other couple of quick notes is that we continue to work with the State Bar on issue of cypre. There's a Legal Services Trust Fund Commission subcommittee that works on cypre issues. And we're really hoping to increase cypre awards, which is the class action residual awards, the remaining funds after class action. It's distributed to as many class members as will cash the check. But we're hoping to make sure that those go to nonprofits, including legal nonprofits and other nonprofits like food banks, because right now, a lot of them, especially in Los Angeles County, are going to the Unclaimed Property Fund. So it's a very important issue, and we're hoping to work with Judicial Council and others on that. Another quick update is that we have been doing continue to do a lot of training of executive directors and senior leaders. I think just a couple months ago, we convened deputy directors at our second annual deputy director retreat, and we continue to convene executive directors. And the State Bar used to support years ago, pre-COVID, what we called traveling training, and we hope to bring it back in 2026. So what it is LAC organizes the work. The funding for our staff was provided by the State Bar, but we organize the support centers who are largely based in urban centers to go out to the pockets of California that are not Los Angeles and San Francisco. So we brought support center staff to Sacramento, to Fresno, to Inland Empire, and to San Diego. So that was really successful, and everyone is ready for us to bring the support centers back. So we'll be working on that in 2026. And the last bit is just what Dwan referenced earlier, is that LAC will be spending a lot of time working with State Bar staff on doing budget advocacy. We know we're in a budget deficit, but the state budget deficit. But when we're considering how much the need has increased over the past year for legal services, we're hoping that we can get the legislature to support some increases beyond what they already did in the governor's special session. We're hoping we can get more increases in the regular session moving forward. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Selena. I'll turn it back over to you, Amin.
Perfect. Thank you, Dwan and Melanie and Selena. Appreciate the reports. I'm going to jump to the next one. We're going to get into committee reports, and I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Erica, for an XCOM committee report.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick update on our last XCOM meeting, which was last Friday, October 31st, Halloween for all of us. The staff reported out that we had 3 clean audits. The 2024 single audit of the federal funds that we administer, the 2024 annual legal services trust fund program report, which is required by the Business and Professions Code that regulates us, and the 2022 to 2024 Trust Fund Commission grant awards. There's another statutory audit that we're subject to. It's a newer audit requirement that came into being when we were more formally codified. And so congratulations to the staff in getting 3 clean audits there. Really impressed with their work in like a ton of growth and still having, very good audits. And we also wanted to share that staff have just completed a series of 3 convenings with grantees entitled Resiliency in Crisis. They were in 3 different parts of the state. One was in Davis, and that was focused on rural justice and attorney deserts. One was in Los Angeles, and it was focused on immigration. And one was in San Francisco on housing justice. Many thanks to Judge Rossi and Ephraim for making appearances at in their respective locations at those convenings. I had the privilege to do the one in Davis, and it was very interesting. We had some really interesting discussion. And then last thing I will flag is that we're going to start working on our planning for the February 2026 in-person meeting. I'm going to be working with staff as well, and Catherine Blakemore, who's not here right now, as well. So if people have ideas of things that you'd like to see us do to work together, if you have awkward or non-awkward icebreakers you think would be valuable to engage in, please feel free to reach out to us or staff and let us know. We'd like to have a really fun and interesting February in-person meeting. And that's what I have. And I think Dwan had an additional comment from our XCOM report. So I'll give it back to her before I give back to you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Erica. I don't. I think you covered all the
okay.
all items. Thank you.
Never mind then. Okay. Back to you, Amin. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Erica. All right, from the Grant Eligibility and Support Committee, I'm going to turn it to Jason.
Thanks, Amin. Good afternoon, everyone. The GES committee met on October 30th to advance several items. On the 2026 IOLTA EAF budget, we approved all 118 IOLTA and EAF grant budgets for 2026. Starting this year, the GES committee's charter allows it to approve these important budgets at the committee level. On the Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Awards for 2026, we recommended a slate that would fund 122 fellows across 59 organizations. Staff presented multiple award scenarios, and after hearing from the Legal Aid Association of California and others, we recommended the schema that would fund positions for more organizations across the state. These award recommendations are before the full commission today. We delegated authority to the State Bar staff to approve the 2026 partnership grants. Staff has approved these budgets in past years and described a timing need to do so again this year. While the GES committee has authority per its charter to delegate this authority, the delegation is also on the consent agenda for today. This is to ensure transparency between the committee and the commission at large. We approved one late 2024 partnership grant budget deviation and a small number of timely 2025 partnership grant budget modification requests. We also approved timely 2024 and 2025 IOLTA and EAF grant, as well as 2025 additional EAF grant budget modification requests. And finally, we approved 2025 Care Court grant budgets. And that summarizes our update from our October 30th meeting. Thanks, Amin.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. And now I'm going to turn it to Judge Rossi on the Program Development and Impact Committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Amin. A number of the items that the PDI committee covered in its October 24th meeting are on your business agenda for today, but I will just highlight a few of those. Of course, we went over the CalHFA 2 awards. At that meeting, we took quite a bit of public feedback and public comment at the meeting, and then the working group that worked on CalHFA promised to go back. So what we did at our October 24th meeting was we approved a slate of legal aid organizations that we were going to approve, and then we went back and met with the working group to redistribute funds to make sure that they covered everything we wanted to cover in all 56 counties in this state. So what you will see when we get to business item 6.4 is the approved slate that the PDI committee approved of. And then for the first time, everyone will have a chance to talk about the funding options and decisions that we made as a working group. We also approved, the PDI committee also approved the letter to the community justice worker proposal authors. You heard one such author from One Justice earlier during the public comment. Working group presented a letter to the PDI committee, and we actually showed that letter to the authors of the community justice worker proposal, and got some feedback from them prior to our meeting. So we discussed that feedback as well as the letter, and then approved that letter, which you will see on business item 6.5. We also approved the Legal Aid Justice Technology Collaborative Work Plan. That's on our consent calendar as item 5.3 today. and got a presentation from those folks. We God, I'm trying to think if we did anything else now. We also talked a little bit about CyPray, as Selena mentioned. We have a working group on the PDI committee that's working on CyPray as well. And it was a jam-packed meeting. We had a lot to talk about, and much of it is here for you today to approve. So I don't think I left anything out, but Dwan, if I did, please let me know.
That's everything. Thank you, Judge Rossi.
Okay, good. Or Aaron, if somebody who was there. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Judge Rossi. And then the last report from the committees is from the Rules Committee, and I think Catherine's not here. Dwan, did you want to take?
Yeah, Erica's actually going, and if Erica is not, then I can be available. Crystal, are you gonna?
Erica's promoted.
Okay,
She'll
great.
make the update thing.
Hi, thanks everybody. Happy to be here. As Catherine's out today, so just giving a quick update on the Rules Committee. They had their last meeting of the year on October 29th, where they met to consider updates to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission's real property purchasing policy, as well as new Legal Services Trust Fund Commission and grantee investment policies. And also changes to rules to require a statement of functional expenses from every applicant for IOLTA and EAF funds, and changing the deadlines for audits and reviewed financial statements for new applicants. So the real property purchase guidelines and the grantee investment policies are on the consent agenda for today. We unfortunately lost quorum at that meeting, and so you'll be asked to review the statement of functional expenses and audit deadline piece as the full commission. Those, if approved today, those will go out for public comment for a 45-day public comment period. The Rules Committee has also been discussing throughout the year support center requirements. And we're looking forward to having a meeting on that in early 2026 to hopefully have some revised rules to propose to the commission. We've received a lot of robust public comment already from the legal aid community, and the working group is looking forward to holding focus groups regarding support center topics in the coming months. And then one last update is that there are several rules that were already approved by the commission that will be going to the State Bar's Board of Trustees on November 20th. And if those rules are approved that day and adopted, they will go into effect immediately. And a lot of those are related to fiscal standards and compliance measures. And so hopefully at the next meeting, we'll have implemented those rules already. And I think that is it for the Rules Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. All right. Next up is the minutes from our August 8th meeting. Does anybody have any comments or changes to those minutes? And if not, do we have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay. I missed who made the motion. Was that Tony?
Yes.
Okay. So Tony moves, Erica seconds. Let's do a roll call vote.
One moment. Apologies. All right. Alicani?
Yes.
Babcock?
Yes.
Blakemore? Absent. Campbell? Belkin?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Did she get me?
Oh, is that Camp? Sorry, Vanetta.
Yes, that was my fault. Apologies.
Okay, no problem. All right, Gonzalez? Huang?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Morales? Pryor?
Yes.
Judge Rosie?
Yes.
Anvil? Smith?
Yes.
Stalker? Escobedo?
Yes.
Milrod?
Yes.
Alsaroff?
Yes.
Connolly?
Yes.
All right, that's 15 yeses, 0 nos. Motion passes.
All right, terrific. Okay, then next up, we've got the consent calendar. And as was mentioned, there's going to be one item that'll need to be pulled from the consent that I think Lauren will be discussing. But is there anybody else? Does anybody have any other item that they'd like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. For 5.1, Erica, Carol, and Lauren, do you want to give us a short discussion about those items?
Lauren and Erica, I think we're gonna pull the one that didn't have quorum. If you guys could present on that one sub item in 5.1.
Okay. Do you want me to wait until you all talk about the consent calendar or right now?
I mean, would you like to vote on the consent calendar or have Lauren and
I guess let's go ahead and vote on the consent calendar, and then we can jump into that. Does it?
Okay.
Any discussion on the consent from anyone? And if not, do we have a motion?
Falcon moves.
I'll move. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, so Jason moves, Erica seconds, and let's do a roll call vote.
Great. Elikani,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Blakemore, Campbell,
Yes.
Delkin,
Yes.
Gonzalez, Huang,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mahoney, Morales, Pryor,
Yes.
Judge Rosie,
Yes.
Sandville, Smith,
Yes.
Stalker, Escobedo,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Elseroff,
Yes.
Connolly.
Yes.
Right, that's 15 yeses, 0 noes, motion passes.
Great. Thank you all. And let's jump in, Lauren and Erica.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, hello to the commission. I'm here to provide a little bit more information on the proposed changes to State Bar Rule 3.680. This is regarding audit extension request and fiscal documentation as part of applications. As Erica mentioned, we pulled this off of consent. Just for more background, the staff had initiated these revisions just to make sure that the changes can take effect for the 2027 IOLTA EAF application cycle, which is expected to begin in April 2026. So staff initially presented revisions to the Rules Committee on the last meeting on October 29th. The committee members who were present were very supportive of the intent of the changes, although there were recommendations to revise for clarity in some instances. And then there was a loss of quorum at the meeting, and so we weren't able to bring the items to a vote. Also just want to make clear that although the revisions were developed by staff, we did solicit the community's feedback informally. Thanks to Legal Aid Association of California for helping us with that. We received an October 11th letter from LAC in support of these changes. Also received a separate letter from the California Project Directors Association, which is a cohort of IOLTA EAF grantees, and they also expressed their support of the changes. So just because of the situation with the October 29th meeting, the proposed revisions, the revisions today are slightly different than those that were proposed at the October 29th Rules Committee meeting, as staff have consulted with legal and revised based on the committee's request for clarity. So knowing all that, just to quickly summarize what the changes actually are, the first proposed change is to clarify extension policies for unfunded applicants for financial documentation. And so the change moves language from the schedule of charges and deadlines directly into Rule 3.680 in E1, and then there's additional language added to E1 and then also F. This essentially specifies that unfunded applicants or those that don't have a current award must submit their audit or financial statement by the application deadline, and thus they can't receive extensions for those documents from the commission. This is in response to some staff workload issues, and it obviously allows unfunded applicants to demonstrate their financial readiness before they enter our grantee pool. And then the second proposed change is to explicitly require a statement of functional expenses as part of a financial review. This is already existing practice that we are just codifying in the rule, as most applicants already submit this. So the revision to the rule briefly defines what a statement of functional expenses is. And just again, for clarity, it's a very common practice in nonprofit accounting to have a statement of functional expenses. So just to summarize, we're asking the commission to authorize staff to make this available for the 45-day public comment period. We're also asking that the commission delegate to staff to present these amendments to the Board of Trustees for approval without having to return to the commission after public comment, should there be no comments that would require the commission's attention. And just to reiterate, this is so that the changes can take effect by the 2027 application cycle that's beginning in April of next year. Thanks again for this time. I will pause for your discussion.
Angie.
Oh, it seems like a minor point. It probably is, but when you said that, all right, you said something was kind of vague, and if I can see that that's going to cause some problems in the language, and I'm just wondering how tight. What you said that if the committee decides, or the committee in its discretion, and that there's no rule for that, so. There's no parameters, maybe something should be added, some kind of guidelines that the grantees know what the committee's looking at when they're making that decision.
Angie, when you say you're referencing something that's vague, are you looking at the rule itself, or what are you referencing?
I apologize. It went through the brain and did not connect with there's something you said as you were describing at the very end of your presentation.
Okay.
I know about the public comment and whether it has to come back if there's nothing that needs to be decided. So who decides what needs to be decided?
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we're thinking this is relatively a relatively straightforward change that has been mostly supported by the community. So thinking that there will not be substantial objections to it, that's what I'm saying, if that makes sense. But I understand your point. Yeah.
Thank you, Angie. Erin.
Thank you. And I had two comments. One is the point that Angie just made. I share that concern. And the second is maybe just more logistical. So now that you're opening up the statement of charges and deadlines, I believe it's called, for public comment, there's actually, I have no objection to these two specific changes that you're recommending, but I have other things that I would like to see happen in that statement of charges and deadlines. And so I'm wondering, would this be the public comment period where other, changes to that statement would be raised? Or is there another time that we could maybe put on the commission's agenda? Specifically, it's around the audit deadline for organizations that are on a calendar year fiscal year. So I don't want to derail anything, but I also have comments about that particular statement.
Or Dwan, did you want to address that? I saw you put your hand up.
Yeah, sure. I can address that direct point with if your concerns don't directly impact the underlying kind of idea behind what we're proposing, then I would suggest we can then build that into the work plan for the Rules Committee. We still often solicit from both commissioners as well as legal aid community if there are rules that we need to revisit. And I'm working right now currently with Erica and Catherine, who's the chair of the Rules Committee, on the 2026 work plan. So this is actually perfect timing. We can get that agendized. We can get that agendized for next year and build it into the work plan to revisit that rule. If what you're concerned about is not the proposed rule itself, and that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's correct, Dwan.
Okay,
thanks.
great.
With that understanding, I would not make a substantive public comment during that period that would derail that. But to Angie's earlier point, I think maybe some clarification here would be helpful.
and I can address that too, unless Erica, you wanted to. We anticipate that there will be no substantive comments or objections to this. If there are substantive comments and objections to this, it will not go directly to the Board of Trustees. It will go back to the Trust Fund Commission to revisit.
I think also, if I can just jump in terms of assessing what is a substantive comment, when we receive public comments, there are three options that a commenter can either agree only if modified, or disagree with the proposal. And so if we were to receive comments that disagreed or suggested modifications, we would want to bring that back to the commission. We do sometimes receive comments that say they disagree with the proposal, but with no additional context. And so I think that, without additional comments about what it is specifically that we would need to change with the proposal, I don't think staff would view that as a substantive comment. But if we only receive agreement or comments that have no additional substance for providing suggestions for changes, that's what we would be taking into consideration for bringing it straight to the board versus back to the commission.
And also our normal practice, if there's a little bit of a gray area, then we would consult with either Amin or Erica as chair of the commission, or Catherine as chair of the Rules Committee.
Great, thank you. Erica Connolly.
I just had a quick comment to say that I like the after our Rules Committee discussion and think this is a really good decision, and happy to be helpful as far as what counts as a substantive comment. I will just note, in general, we don't seem to get a lot of public comments, so I echo staff's view that this is likely not to be particularly controversial, especially since it hasn't been controversial so far. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. Do we have a resolution? I know we have it in the memo. Do we have a resolution?
Yeah, let me share screen. And if we wish to change the language in the resolution to be more specific about the public comment, I was just trying to do that really quickly. Erica, Carol, can you remind me what you said? Disagree, and then they provide suggestions.
Can I make a suggestion? Unless the commissioners would like that clarification, then
okay.
maybe we leave it as is, but.
My bad.
Do we have anyone that would like to make a motion on this resolution, either as it's written or otherwise?
I'll make the motion as written.
Do you mind either reading it aloud or making it a little bit bigger? It's hard to see in the conference room.
Oh, yes.
That's good for me.
Does anyone need me to read it?
Can everyone read it? Okay. All right. So Erica's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Well,
Okay, Tony has second. Let's do a roll call vote.
okay. Alicani,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Blakemore, Campbell,
Yes.
Galkin,
Yes.
Gonzalez, Wong,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Morales, Pryor,
Yes.
Judge Rosie,
Yes.
Sandville, Smith,
Yes.
Stalker, Escobedo,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Alsaroff,
Yes.
Connolly.
Yes.
Right, that's 15 yeses, 0 noes, motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's jump into the business. First item 6.1 is approval of revisions to the IOLTA grant agreement. We had a few public comments about this with respect to data collection, participation data collection efforts. And I'm going to turn it to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Amin. Good afternoon, commissioners.
I'm Elizabeth Hom, Program Director in our office. As Amin mentioned, I'm presenting on item 6.1 to request revisions be made to the IOLTA grant agreement to include the requirement that grantees participate in data collection efforts, including the intake census. This is coming to you all because you have previously requested that any requirements for grantees be brought to your attention for approval. As you may recall, the State Bar published its 2024 California Justice Gap Study with recommendations that the Commission developed through our co-chairs. And one of the recommendations is to administer the intake census more regularly to better understand trends and challenges to providing services and to advocate for appropriate supports for expanding and targeting services to areas of greatest need. As a part of this effort, we plan to improve the data collection instrument. And as we have done in the past, we are committed to working with our grantees and are open to reaching out to the Legal Services Corporation and others to try to align our timelines and survey instruments as is possible. I want to note that we are not asking for increased participation in optional surveys that we on occasion send out for informal feedback. As Selena noted in her public comment, this is very much codifying existing practice and requiring the intake census and would only be related to surveys or data points that the Commission has approved. As you know, any changes to our grantee reporting is being discussed currently through our work with the Legal Aid Data Project, which will be presented to the Commission for approval next year. We anticipate that any changes to the intake census instrument would be brought to you at the same time. So as a reminder, this particular item is related to revising our grant agreement to include the data collection as a requirement. So I'll pause there and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do you have any questions? Patience, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, thanks. I'm not clear. Well, I note the comment from Legal Services of Northern California about the timing of intake censuses and the unfortunate confusion with one coming on top of the other between IOLTA and LSC. So I'm not clear. It's really important to me. I remember how frantic everybody was when it came census time. So I think it's really important that somehow the avoidable complications be avoided.
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah, absolutely.
On top of that, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, Patience. We are committed, and I think we have, as we have in the past, we've worked very closely with our grantees, particularly our LSC-funded grantees, to try to address kind of concerns about additional reporting and to align with LSC. So to the extent that it is possible, we will do that. We can reach out to LSC to try to understand their schedule and their instrument. As I did mention, though, our Office of Research and Statistics, they had some concerns about the current instrument and wanted to improve upon it. And so we will be going through that process and sharing that information as well with LSC.
So in my best of all possible worlds, both as a member of this commission and certainly back in the former role as an ED, there would be one survey that LSC would accept and the State Bar would accept, the Trust Fund Commission would accept, or at least the overlap would be massive as opposed to incidental. So it's just really, I understand there may be some justification for some differences, and I understand that the LSC and the Trust Fund Commission are not linked at the hip by any means, and so getting coordination is not necessarily, we can't take it for granted that can happen, but to the extent it can happen, both in terms of substance and in terms of timing, the more you can avoid duplicative effort on the part of programs, the more grateful they will be. So I think that their job actually is to not burden them necessarily.
Thank you, Patience.
Thank you, Patience. Ken had a comment next.
Yeah, so thank you. Given the concerns raised by Patience and raised in the public comments,
I'm wondering whether or not this proposal is a bit premature. The data working group is actively looking at the various different types of information that's collected from recipients and trying to make sure that the information collected is the right information and it's used to advance the mission of the commission and the mission of the community at large. And it seems to me that until we see the work of that data working group, which will happen next year, this proposal may just be a little bit the proverbial cart before the horse.
So we are bringing this to you now because we are preparing grant agreements for the 2026 year, and those need to be signed shortly. And so we're putting this in kind of as a preemptive. So that is the reason for the timing.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Ken. Dawn?
Yeah, can I offer a little bit of background on why we're adding it to the grant agreement? When we administered the intake census 5 years ago, when we published the previous justice gap study, it was communicated as a requirement to our grantees. It wasn't actually in the grant agreement itself. And that time when it was administered as a requirement, we had a very high response rate. I believe it was 70 or 80%. We actually did administer the intake census last year as part of our justice gap study. And because it was communicated as not a requirement, we received a very low response rate that made it invalid, kind of the responses. So this is anticipation that the Trust and Commission has already voted through Erica and Amin, and part of the Justice Gap recommendations is to have an intake census. So this language in the grant agreement is so you all have kind of teeth in your requirements. However, I do want to underscore, we are at this time not changing any practices. There are no new kind of reporting requirements that's added. It is just to again, having in our grant agreement a little bit more teeth that you all have already voted to advance a recommendation as part of the Justice Gap study in order to implement an intake census.
Yeah, Erica, go ahead. Thank you, Dawn.
Thanks. I am just gonna, I think, echo what Dawn said. This is a very narrow issue. It is whether we can put into our agreement that when we require, which we have not, we have done one requirement that we have already passed, whether we can enforce compliance with the requirement, which we have already voted on through the grant agreement. That is all that's happening here. We are not actually making additional requirements for data collection. That is something separate that we will need to go through. And so I just wanted to make sure everyone understood this is not an unbridled collection of, where we can make all these things. Those will still have to go through the commission. We can have debates about whether that data collection is appropriate, the amount, the burden, all those kinds of things. This is just about whether, if and when we make that decision, we can use our grant agreement as a means to enforce that. So I just want to make it very clear what we're doing. Commissioners may or may not think that's, people will, I'm sure, have different views on that, but I just want us not to be confusing it with sort of an unbridled request for data.
Thanks, Erica, for that clarification. Erin, go ahead.
Yeah, I do appreciate that clarification, Erica. That makes me feel a lot better. My concern, though, is that's not what the resolution says. This resolution is really broad. It doesn't say anything about data collection that's already required. It doesn't say anything about only the intake census, or is that an annual census or every 3 years? It says very generally surveys. I mean, there's a lot of surveys. So I'll just say, I understand some of the concerns from the public comment about not having a lot of detail and the burden on staff in requiring, response to whatever the state bar asks, essentially. So maybe there's a different way to write it.
Erin, I want to make sure I understand. So your concern is that the way it's worded, you think that it seems to be requiring particular. Can you clarify what it is in the resolution that you're concerned about, just so that we're all?
Yeah, I mean, the resolution, it's just pretty vague. So it says, the requirement that all grantees participate in data collection efforts, including surveys and intake censuses. So
What if we add the word required in there? Would
yeah, I
would that
mean,
help?
yeah, and
Required, so that it's clear that it's only that's commission approved, required, voted
ones that are
on.
already
Yes.
required, you have to say, yes, we know this is required. So I do think that is a meaningful change, Dwan. And are there, other than the intake census, which I'm not too familiar with, are there required surveys?
No, there aren't. That's the piece that we want to underscore. There's a lot of surveying in our office because we like to gather feedback from grantees. You know, we engage with the community. We get preemptive feedback on all of our rulemaking, on other decision-making points. But I do want to underscore again, all of those are optional. Only the ones that are required go through this commission as a requirement. So I think if we add in the word requirement, I'm hoping that will address the concerns.
Add required and potentially remove the word surveys then, so just as an idea.
If I may, we wrote this a little bit broad because we had received feedback from our research office that they had concerns about the intake census instrument. And so I wanted to give us a little bit of flexibility in case it was changed in such a way that maybe we don't call it an intake census, but I understand your concerns. And when we get to the resolution, I can put it up with the language that has been suggested thus far.
And we drafted it kind of broad in case you all want to at some point require a survey.
Right.
I think that I would not suggest limiting it. You don't have to exercise that, but it gives you that authority, at least in a grant provision.
Thank you. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest the friendly amendment to the resolution and add in as required by the commission or something to that effect, or formally adopted and required by the commission. I think adding that as a grant term seems sensible.
Great, thank you, Jason. Patience?
I am seconding what I hope the chair will consider Jason's motion to amend to adopt the resolution as he suggested it be amended.
Okay, let's take the last comment and then we can work on the resolution that Jason will propose for us. Angie.
Do we need, I mean, why did you add including surveys and intake census? If it was required data collection efforts, that would be whatever you call it. It would, so you don't need to name the specific parts of what you're requiring, do you? Do we?
We call that the intake
stop at
census.
efforts?
We call the intake census because that is what that is the new requirement. So we wanted to be transparent about that. We made the grant agreement term a little bit more broad so that you all again would have latitude in case down the line you wanted to require any of those other mechanisms.
Well, a census is a data collection.
Perhaps, would it be useful if I shared my screen with the proposed resolution and some of the edits?
That'd be great. Thank you, Elizabeth.
So I heard in the discussion required data collection efforts, but I also heard as approved by the Trust Fund Commission. So not sure how detailed you wanted this to be.
That would be my request. Require data collection efforts as approved and required by the Trust Fund Commissioners.
That was the intent of my motion. I think to address some of the comments that we received, not that I don't trust staff, but like to clarify that we are talking about formally adopted and approved requirements by the Trust Fund Commission, as opposed to, if staff thinks this is a survey that would be helpful or what, like that is different from the formally adopted and required data collection efforts that we've approved. So if I would say in this situation at some point in the future, if staff wants a data collection effort to be a requirement, it would, by way of this resolution, require coming back to the commission and say, we want to require our grantees to do this.
May I delete this required before data collection?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing this will do is it will we'll be sure to lay eyes on it. We as a commission will have an opportunity to understand how our data collection coincides with or intersects with Legal Services Corporation, all of that. I think that'll be very, very helpful, and it'll give me some.
Right. Hey, Erica, go ahead.
I was just going to make the motion to approve it as amended.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Patience is second. Let's do a roll call vote.
Okay, Alikani,
Approve.
Babcock,
Approve.
Blakemore, Campbell,
Approve.
Delkin,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Gonzalez, Hong,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Morales, Pryor,
Yes.
Judge Rosie,
Yes.
Sandville, Smith,
Yes.
Stalker, Escobedo,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Elsteroff,
Yes.
Connolly.
Yes.
Great, that's 15 yeses, 0 no's, motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you everyone for those comments. Let's move on to 6.2, which is recommendations regarding revisions to the IOLTA EAF grant eligibility review process. And I think we're going to Erica for this one.
Yes, I am a pinch hitter on this one, so I'm going to do my best. And I think Crystal is going to share her screen with the PowerPoint, and I will do the best I can. So Crystal, I don't know if you want to pull it up. Awesome. Great. Okay, so I worked with Catherine Blakemore, with Joy Song, and with Chris McConkey, and we sort of did a working group about revising the IOLTA EAF eligibility review, and essentially trying to do put in a process that would allow staff to have an opportunity to review in advance some of the information that new applicants are bringing when they fill out their applications, given that we don't have usually any familiarity with those organizations. You can see, and as a reminder, applicants' qualified expenditures determine their primary purpose for eligibility, and especially for QLSPs, they also determine the size of the award. QEs, that analysis is really extensive. It includes reviewing services, client staffing, and expenses. New applicants who are not familiar with this way of determining qualified expenditures often struggle with those requirements, and they require a lot of comprehensive technical assistance from staff. And we've had some recent experiences demonstrating that particular need, which is why staff had worked with Catherine and I to come up with these recommendations. In particular, we'll note that state bar staff often need a lot of extra time to gather and analyze the information and provide those unfunded applicants with a lot of TA to ensure accuracy. Crystal, if you can go to the next slide. So these changes will be for unfunded applicants only. It would essentially be to require a pre-application. The major benefits of a pre-application is to allow staff and the applicant to understand better the eligibility requirements, to assess eligibility early, to determine whether they actually want to proceed with the actual application. It allows state bar staff an opportunity to get more really important critical information before you're going through the timing crunch of the application process. And then also applicants can really be introduced early before they're going through the application process with the IOLTA and EAF like fiscal and program responsibilities, which are really strict. And there's a benefit to them being really strict. That's how we've ended up with 3 clean audits. You go to the next slide. So the pre-application will cover certain topics. This is our recommendation. It'll ask these new applicants their mission and their vision. their public facing identity. It'll ask about their history of providing qualified legal services or support center services in California. And for every project and initiative that they list, it will ask for details about whether those are legal versus non-legal services, how the work is legal in nature, talk about the staffing, legal versus non-legal, kinds of clients that they serve, whether there's any fees for services, the work for their clients in versus outside of California, and their total expenditures. And it'll also ask for a primary purpose explanation. And again, the purpose of all of these topics is to give both these new applicants and staff opportunity to go through early what it is that will be determinative for their actual application for eligibility. Next slide, please. Our next recommendation, and again, this part is also just for the new, or as we've defined it, unfunded applicants, is to allow us to request interviews with their executive management and their funders. And I think with the funders, we asked for references. We will ask them, our recommendation is to ask these applicants for references of other individuals or organizations that have funded them. And this purpose is, the purpose of these recommendations is to offer assurances about the applicant's primary purpose, their quality of work, whether they're ready to and have the financial controls and internal controls to steward our funds. It also gives staff an opportunity to uncover whether there's any material weaknesses in those controls in their governance, service delivery models, and primary purpose. These other funders can often provide a really critical third-party validation or insights into the self-reported materials, and ideally can be an opportunity to right? And it also gives hopefully some stronger and trusting relationships with those potential grantees and the legal aid community more broadly. So it's an opportunity for us and the new applicants to vet each other and to ensure that everyone is understanding of what's going on. All right, and then let's move to recommendation number 4. Separate, this is something that we have recommended for all applicants, is to at least start considering, although we don't at this point have a formal rule in place, but consider raising the community support threshold. So currently QLSPs have to show community support, and that right now is defined as showing at least $20,000 from local community or other from the local community that they've raised, or other evidence reflecting broader community support. The purpose is to show that there's local community buy-in and that there's operational and financial sustainability, essentially that our funds are not the only way for them to be able to operate. In 2025, however, $20,000 is potentially not that meaningful. So $20,000 is much less demonstrative for larger organizations than smaller ones. And inflation erodes the real value of $20,000. So again, we are not at this point proposing a change, but some of the changes that we think we should address if the commission adopts this recommendation is whether we should instead have community support pegged to a percentage threshold proportionally to the organization's budget. So maybe 5 or 10% of their budget needs to be coming from community support, or potentially a tiered approach that combines maintaining the $20,000 minimum for small organizations and adopting a percentage requirement for orgs that are above a certain budget threshold. So again, these are just options, and the recommendation is just to explore making that change. Okay, and then if we can move to the next slide.
Yeah, Erica, I'll just mention because it was
Oh,
in the
yeah, please.
materials. Yeah, for the recommendation for, I think that the exploration piece would be, I think, sort of under the purview of the rules committee, as it would impact the sort of codification and existing rules. So I wanted to layer that in.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Crystal. Thank you for flagging that. Yes, the rules committee would be the ones who would take that under consideration and start developing any changes. Okay, recommendation number 5 is our suggestion is that for all applicants, There should be more detail in row 2 of the qualified expenditure worksheet, which I believe, and Crystal, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, this is in the application, the annual application they have to fill out. So currently in row 2 for the worksheets for QLSPs and support centers, it asks just about non-qualifying expenditures generally. Our recommendation is to disaggregate the question to ask about what that non-qualifying work is about and like be more specific about it. So for QLSPs, ask about non-legal services, case management, counseling, navigation, trainings, community organizing, other activities that we have, that the commission has found to often that the commission has often found to be non-legal. So we have more details about that. And then for support centers, ask about common services that are not legal training, legal technical assistance or advocacy support for legal services. I think this was the issue where it came into like leadership training. And again, as Dwan already flagged, that would be about youth leadership training, not leadership training for lawyers. But Crystal has come off mute, so I'm sure she will clarify that for me.
Just wanted to confirm. I think Selena had said that during her comment earlier. We are confirming that clarification that I think the term youth was omitted from the memo, but that was the intention. And then just sort of support center and non-qualifying and qualifying activities are sort of folded into the Rules Committee work plan. I think that's being sort of addressed as mentioned during the Rules Committee update earlier during the meeting.
Great. Thanks, Crystal. And then let's go to the last one. This recommendation is another one that that if it's adopted by the commission would go to the Rules Committee, and that is about, you know, establishing sort of clear guidelines about revising applications after the deadline. So require materials that are late and applications with recurrent mistakes that can interfere with the careful analysis of the application process and potentially threaten the integrity of the eligibility review process. It's particularly challenging to deal with that when there's also commission meetings coming up where staff needs to make sure that they can prepare those materials to be agendized and published in a timely manner. So some of the things that we think the Rules Committee and whatever working group it puts together on this should explore things like declining revisions after materials post for the Grant Eligibility and Support Committee meeting to recommend awards, allowing staff some discretion to process one-off issues that are maybe more on the minimal or de minimis side, and allow organizations that the commission's found to be tentatively eligible to correct figures that affect grant allocations, because obviously that is quite important. We don't want our grant allocations to be incorrect. And then finally, let me move to recommendation 7. I know this is a lot, so I'm also happy to answer questions after. And then recommendation 7, we recommend that for all applicants, that currently the applications require audited or reviewed financial statements and information about revenue, expenditure, staffing to demonstrate compliance. Information about financial controls and history of fraud, embezzlement, or similar events may not show up until a site visit, which for information, new applicants get a monitoring visit within the first year, but ongoing applicants get a monitoring visit once every 3 years. So one of the things that we are recommending is having some kind of change that would require applicants to certify their financial control protocols and or disclose any history of fraud, theft, embezzlement, or similar events that occurred in the last 5 years so that we're aware of that, and that would be part of their application. Also consider requiring applicants to provide the most recent Form 990, including schedules, and potentially discuss or consider how the Trust Fund Commission conducts those eligibility review conferences where we meet with organizations where there's some questions on their application. And then I don't know, Crystal, there's some response to the 990, if that's from the public comment.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
as a clarification about the 990 and the timing of that, I think just to clarify, I think the intent is for applicants to submit as part of the application materials the most recently submitted Form 990. So in the instance for the public comment that was provided, we wouldn't need the one sort of that you submit after the application, but the one that's sort of the as valid as of the date of submission, which would be in the May timeframe.
Great. Okay, and then if you want to move to the next one about the proposed resolution, but then obviously happy to answer questions as best I can. And obviously I encourage, oh, and Chris has his hand up, so he may have other things he would like to share.
And I apologize for my voice. I'm recovering from a cold, but hopefully you can hear me okay. For recommendation 7, I want, if you don't mind, Crystal, going back one slide. I wanted to flag that staff, after posting the memo and the slides, staff received the input that it would also be helpful that if the applicant identifies theft, embezzlement, et cetera, from the last 5 years, that we request their auditor's management letter and disclosure to the governing body, as well as the Form 990. So I'm submitting that for the commission's consideration, that we require those additional materials if they disclose something, and it would only be for the relevant time period.
One thing I'll just note though is recommendation 7 is still a suggestion that would go to the rules committee, not a formal change right now. And so I think Judge Klein had his hand raised, and then I'll go to you, Angie.
Isn't the term history rather vague? It doesn't say convictions. And of course, if they were convicted and they were in prison for 5 years, they wouldn't be exactly crime-free for 5 years. It seems a little ambiguous.
For number 7?
Yeah, require applicants to disclose any history of fraud, theft, embezzlement.
Yeah, and so I will say, I think on that one, the suggestion is not that we would finalize this today, that as to what they would have to disclose today. It would instead be a recommendation to send to the rules committee so that the rules committee can actually finalize language, which I think your point is well taken, that, you know, how defining that in the appropriate way so that we actually are able to capture the information that we're trying to capture would be really helpful. But we're not, for number 7 and for number 4, and actually maybe for number 6, we're not actually proposing definite changes today. We're just proposing that they be referred to the rules committee to have more formal rules.
And how would the rules committee know that, you know, about this point?
Well, you're welcome. I mean, I'm on the rules committee, and so I now know that we can definitely add, you know, that issue, and then obviously when it's taken up by the rules committee, you're more than welcome to, if you'd like to participate on a working group alongside.
I trust your judgment, but I'm just saying, you know, theft can be, you know, someone took a couple of bottles of beer or, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think it's more about the entities being a victim of that would report, that they would have to report to their insurance company or something. But yeah, I think it's a good point to come up with some standards about what counts, what the threshold is. Yeah, we're not maybe as worried about someone walked off with a pen or a stapler so much as you know, financial fraud.
No, you're not worried. That's my point. That would be theft. I'm not saying we should be worried about that, but
yeah, no, yeah, we can, and that's why I think it's good that we refer it instead to the rules committee to work out some of those details. Angie?
Well, Judge Klein did bring up a lot of what I was going to say, but on number 6, how many actual applicants have actually submitted revisions that were major enough to call to your attention after the deadline in our history? Is there any numbers at 1, 2, 100?
I can speak to that. There are substantial revisions, and you know, I will say our application is very technical for our commissioners that have filled out our application. But I would say about half of them have issues, and then maybe a dozen or so have substantial issues every grant cycle. So it's not a small amount.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'm sorry, Erica, did you call my name?
I did, yes.
Okay, sorry, cut out a
Sorry.
little bit. Thank you. And by the way, you did a great job pinch hitting. Played almost like a Dodger. Just
I
kidding.
think sorry, I'm a
Um,
Giants fan, so but congrats
I
to you
know
guys.
I'm busting your chops, so sorry.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
great job and amazing work. I had a point of clarification, and then I did have a comment on one of the recommendations. But for recommendation 7, just point of clarification, the changes we're exploring doesn't mean that we would now move to and not be requesting the audited financials, right? This is in addition
No,
to
in addition
requesting
to.
audited financials. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That was my one. And then my comment is on the I think it's recommendation 4, the one that talked about community support.
Yes.
And just wanted to share just no concerns. I think it should be adjusted in some way. I saw in the memo talking about a tiered system. So those were just going to be the 2 points I was going to make. One is the tiered systems work well because usually you can set a threshold of saying, hey, orgs with budgets under $1 million, like it's flat. Don't try to be doing percentages. We're really talking about the big orgs. And it is important to do that. I think, what that percentage is will be your all's work, but just wanted to express support for that. As the committee explores the language and all that, one point I would encourage more discussion if when you say community report, but then later say part of the intention is financial sustainability, to me it gets a little murky. Like you're either trying to establish community support or financial sustainability. For financial sustainability, this doesn't seem like a good measure. I'd be looking at the audited financials and over the last 3 years or whatever, what's your balance between restricted and unrestricted dollars. So just a point of consideration for the committee, that might be something to discuss, and whether that's mainly not the objective here and really hone in on community support.
That's a great point. And it sounds like you might want to volunteer for the working group if this goes through, to be on the Rules Committee working group. Thanks, Efrain.
If you do a work group on recommendation 4, absolutely, yes. No, I'm just kidding. Happy to support.
Ken?
A question on the pre-application process for unfunded applicants in recommendation 1 and the interview process that's in recommendation 2. It was a little unclear to me, and maybe you said in the presentation, what happens after that pre-application process? Is a staff determination made? Does it come back to the GES committee? Does it come to the full commission to determine whether or not that unfunded applicant is approved to file a full application? What happens?
That is a great point. I don't think that oh, go ahead. Who's going to answer?
So the pre-application, sorry, the one with the hoarse voice. The pre-application wouldn't preclude the unfunded applicant from being able to submit the regular application. So they would submit the pre-application before the regular application releases. Staff would review it, provide technical assistance, and then they would submit the regular app. It wouldn't need to go to the GS committee. Staff wouldn't be making any kind of determination on their eligibility, and it in no way would bar them from, the outcome of the pre-app would not bar them from applying, but it would be a required step. It's almost like part of the application.
And what would the timing be of that pre-application process, Chris?
We anticipate releasing it in mid to late January, leaving it up in February, closing it by early March, and using the month of March to do analysis and provide technical assistance. And then the regular application releases in April.
And so that basically moves your workload of answering those heavy questions that you would normally get in April and May. It moves it to March.
Exactly.
Got it.
And
Thanks.
can I chime in for again a little bit more context? A lot of times new applicants come to us and they get a lot of technical assistance, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year. However, in the last few years, what we've seen is some applications that have come through and we don't know about the organization until they apply. And then we are left with only 4 weeks to vet an organization that perhaps can be $10 million in size, $15 million in size with many offices. It's very time crunch for staff. So moving this up lets us do that like investigatory. And really at this phase, it's about getting to know the organization, what they do, how they do it, where they're doing it, their services, so that when we go into actually the compliance review and verifying numbers, we have that confidence. And then we can flag any additional issues.
Got it.
Any other questions or discussions on this that I or staff can help with? If not, I'm happy to make the motion.
Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Judge Rossi seconds. Let's do a roll call vote.
Sorry. One moment, just toggling screens. So that was Erica who moved, and then sorry, who seconded? Judge Rosie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll take roll call now. Alikani?
Approve.
Babcock?
Yes.
Blakemore? Campbell?
Yes.
Galkin?
Yes.
Gonzalez? Wong?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Morales? Pryor?
Yes.
Judge Rosie?
Yes.
Sanville? Smith?
Yes.
Stalker? Escobedo?
Yes.
Milrod?
Yes.
Elseroff?
Yes.
Connolly?
Yes.
Great, that's 15 yeses, 0 nos, motion passes.
Great,
Thank you all. Can I just make one last comment? I mean, sorry, and then I'll
Yeah.
stop. I just wanted to say, if anyone is interested on the ones where we are referring them to the rules committee, if any of you who are not on the rules are interested in develop those rules, Catherine, I will urge you, let her know. We can always use additional working group help. So that's just my pitch if you're interested in a particular topic. Sorry.
Thanks, Erica. Okay, we're a little bit behind schedule. We've got a few more heavy items to discuss. I'm going to go to the next one for 6.3, and then I think might be a good idea for us to take a short break after the next one before we jump into 6.4 and on. So 6.3 is Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Grant Awards, and I'm going to turn to Mara.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, commissioners. I am presenting on Legal Aid Leaders award recommendations for the 2026 grant funding cycle. The full slide deck is posted with this item, but as we are running a little behind schedule, I'm going to be providing an abridged version. Visually, I will provide all of the substantive information to you, but if you want the full slide deck, it's available. So the applications for the 2026 LALF grant applications came in. We had even more applicants than we had previously, 4 additional applicants. And as of before, grantees were able to apply for funding for multiple fellows up to $10,000 each, with a minimum of $7,500 compensation for fellows. Unfortunately, we do have less funding available for the 2026 grant cycle. And so it was a little leaner this year when it came to funding award recommendations. One of the goals of this grant is to distribute fellows as widely as possible across the state and to support the funding preference goals of the grant, which is to fund organizations who are serving clients in rural communities, underserved communities, and clients regardless of immigration status. So with this in mind, the scoring team reviewed and scored all applications and developed 2 different funding scenarios. The first scenario would distribute strictly based off of application awards and would distribute funds up to 3 fellows until we ran out of funding. Scenario 1 would only fund fellows at 50 organizations and would fund 122 fellows. Staff and the scoring team recommend, and the
GES committee also recommends funding scenario number 2, which would take a slightly different approach and would distribute funds more broadly across organizations. It would fund fellows at 59 organizations and would fund the same number of fellows. So we would get a much broader distribution of fellows across the state, in line with the goals of the grant. This is a very well-supported grant. We received a lot of public comment during the GES committee meeting. So we're enthusiastic to be able to provide this funding again for the 2026 grant cycle. In short, these are the recommendations before you, but I am happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Okay, do we have any questions? Judge Rossi?
I just want to make sure that I know which one the GES committee supported.
Scenario number two. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Mara, do you have a slide? Is it easy or is it too many to put on screen in case the commissioners wanted to view it? It's in your meeting materials, but I didn't know.
It is. Which slide are you
sorry,
asking
with all the 59. Is that slide too much?
That's
No,
that's
okay.
the attachment. That
Okay.
slide is unfortunately too large to show.
And it is in your meeting materials.
It is.
If you want the full list.
Yes.
I'll move the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion from Angie. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Oh. We had 2 people.
Jackie can second.
Okay, all right. Jacqueline, second. Let's do a roll call vote.
Sorry, I mean, could you clarify who seconded the motion?
I think it was a competition, but I think Jacqueline won out.
We'll give it to
won.
Jackie.
No problem. All right, I'll take roll call vote. Elikani,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Blakemore, Campbell,
Yes.
Falcon,
Yes.
Gonzalez, Wong,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Morales, Pryor,
Yes.
Judge Rosie,
Yes.
Danville, Smith,
Yes.
Stalker, Escobedo,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes, abstaining with respect to CCLS.
thank you. Elsaroff,
Yes, and abstaining with respect to LAFLA.
okay, Connolly.
Yes.
All right, that's 15 yeses, 0 noes, 2 abstentions. Notice motion passes.
Crystal, is it too late to retroactively abstain from Family Violence Appellate Project? I apologize, I forgot about that.
I'll note it in the.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mara. Okay, before we get to 6.4, let's take a 5-minute, I know it's a short one, but let's take a short break and hopefully we can power through the rest of it and maybe get out a little bit early, perhaps, into the weekend. So let's meet back at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Let's now move back into. Looks like we got folks back. The next agenda item, which is 6.4, approval of CalHFA awards for 2025 to 2029. And I'm going to turn this over now to Mara. Again.
Mara?
Yes.
Is it okay if I jump in before you start real quick?
Absolutely.
I apologize.
Thank
But I just
you.
wanted to, is that all right? I mean, if I jump in before?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to say, before we start, I wanted to thank the 35 or so QLSPs and support centers that applied for the CalHFA to grant and for those who provided public comment. during our PDI committee meeting and here before our meeting today. And I also wanted to thank Mara and the State Bar Office of Access Inclusion, and of course, fellow Commissioner Aaron Smith, who all worked very, very hard on a very quick and short timeline. And I wanted to just, remind the trust fund commissioners and folks who are listening in, the scoring team developed these new funding recommendations that we've come up with since the October 24th meeting, really from scratch. And we were trying to be responsive to the public comment that we heard. The funding recommendations that we're making and that you've seen in your agenda packet were designed to avoid the identified funding gaps that we heard about both in Mariposa and Tuolumne counties, and the underfunding in Orange County and some of the Central Valley counties. Our previous recommendation arguably underfunded those areas. As a team, we know that there is an immense need for funding in this area. And we had to make some hard choices. We were really mindful of funding all 58 counties, but in order to do that in some measurable way, we had to move things around. The funding that we have available to us wasn't sufficient to even touch the need. I think applicants requested somewhere in the neighborhood of, I guess, close to 79 million. We had 22 million to give. So I just want to sort of set that stage for everyone, because I know there's been a lot of public comment, and I just want to thank State Bar staff and Aaron for all the hard work and the hard choices that we had to make. And Aaron, I don't know if you want to say anything before we start either.
Yeah, thanks, Judge Rosie. And I second everything that you just said. And I also just wanted to raise, in response to some of the public comment, to remind the commissioners the goal of distributing grant funds on a statewide basis was in the RFP. The first sentence under the selection criteria in the RFP states that the commission will make its best effort to distribute grants statewide. So just want to assure everyone that was in the materials. We also, at the public meeting of the PDI committee, we did discuss how the rubric would be able to, the scoring rubric would be able to reflect that. And we discussed and agreed as a committee to add a line item to the scoring rubric, which ended up being called the special consideration category, which is where we were able to ensure that the grants as a group fund diverse geographic regions as well as client constituencies and issue areas. So that was discussed and known as an overall goal of this grant to fund statewide. And I also just wanted to, in response to some public comment about the disaster priority category being a big chunk of points, our understanding at the scoring team is that this was really CalHFA's priority, that this grants fund disaster preparedness and legal services. And we've heard as a commission in the past agendized items as well as public comment about the importance of funding disaster legal services. And that was reflected in this proposal, in the RFP and in the scoring rubric. So as a scoring team, we didn't deviate from that. We applied that priority faithfully. And like Judge Rosie said, such difficult decisions. And we really tried to be mindful and responsive and did our absolute best.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
See, go ahead, Mara.
Thank you, Judge Rosie. Thank you, Aaron. And thank you very much for the hard work and thought and expertise that you brought to the scoring team. I agree. It was a lot of very difficult decisions as we're trying to slice up $22 million over 4 years across the entire state. It doesn't go as far as we wish it would. As a very quick overview, the grant period, as I mentioned, is 4 years. The focus of this grant is to preserve home ownership through foreclosure prevention, protect home equity, prevent homeowner displacement. Eligibility in terms of clients being served are those living at or below 150% AMI, and applicants were provided funding with the funding preference of serving clients after natural disasters and serving underserved communities or organizations that plan to develop expertise in these areas. So those were funding preferences of the grant. We received 36 applications from 35 organizations, and as previously mentioned, the total request for funding to provide services was at about 79 million. So it was 3.5 times what we had available to distribute over 4 years. The scoring rubric again included impact, administration, evaluation, serving victims of natural disasters, serving underserved communities, and the scoring rubric was used as a guide to evaluate and discuss. Scores have been reported in the attachments provided to you. I believe it's attachment C to the memo. And overall scores are in percentage and total raw points. And there was a range of scores from 90.7% to 45.3%. In terms of assessing fellowships for the grants, applicants needed to meet expectations across impact administration and evaluation, and then provide comprehensive and meaningful strategies to recruit, integrate, and provide career development to fellows within their programs. As previously discussed, the PDI committee reviewed initial funding recommendations at its October 24th meeting, and we received public comment, and there was a discussion amongst the committee. The committee recommended funding 17 applicants to ensure adequate service coverage to clients and support legal aid organizations across multiple counties that at the time appeared to be underfunded. And again, this went to the geographic distribution of funding across the state, which was a goal of this grant, or is a goal of this grant. After that discussion and after recommending the 17 applicants and that slate of applicants, the PDI committee directed the scoring team to reconvene and develop new funding recommendations. And those are the recommendations before the commission today. In developing these new funding recommendations, the scoring team did analyze the proposed budgets, the capacity of an organization to implement impactful projects with less funding, the need across the state, and the desire to provide support in terms of foreclosure prevention legal services across the state with, again, very limited funding availability. So here is, and I apologize, it's a little small on this slide, but it is provided as an attachment within the memo and is one of the last tables within the memo. The funding recommendations now being brought before the commission for consideration. So I'm happy to leave this on the screen, as I think this is possibly more useful than a slide that says discussion. But at this time, I am happy to answer any questions and clarify any information provided during this presentation.
Juan, go ahead.
You know, I can kick us off, and so this, as Mara and Judge Rosie and Aaron mentioned, is a very competitive grant, and you know, as you all know, there's cuts at the federal level, at the local level. So I think this is understandably so. A lot of programs are looking at this grant as kind of maybe an end to not having to do layoffs or close kind of their practice groups, and so we understand that I will offer, because we can't offer up an additional 12 million or 15 million. One thing that I've been thinking about is if the commission is agreeable to this, we can contact CalHFA next week and see if this is meant to be a 3.5-year grant with a 6-month retroactive. So it could be potentially like 4 grant. And the reason why, in conversations with them, they wanted to provide flexibility for our grantees. However, I could ask them to amend our grant agreement to allow programs to spend it in a shorter period of time. That might blunt some of the dramatic kind of cuts in this if they are able to spend it over 2 years versus 4 years. The other, and you heard this in public comments on the fellowship piece, I think there are some programs that maybe would rather use their fellowship funding to fund kind of their base program. We do have in our grant agreement with CalHFA that we need to provide a funding for a cohort of fellows, and so we've already went down from 33 that was requested to 12. So I think a cohort is probably not 5 or 6. It needs to be kind of a meaningful distribution across the state. With that said, what Mara and I can do is next week email all the grantees. We've heard already from one grantee that they would like to use their base funding to fund a fellow. So if there's some movement back and forth and we can land on some meaningful amount, 10, 11, 12, stay within that, then perhaps programs like the one that made public comment can elect to use that funding as their base one. So those are the 2 ideas I can come up creatively. The other thing I will say is I'm hopeful that there might be additional funding for this grant through CalHFA. And if there is, this is something that the commission could then reconsider, is if we wanted to, if we got a distribution in the next, before this grant ends, is perhaps when we release the RFP, letting programs resubmit their application if they so desire, and perhaps taking into consideration programs that didn't get funded at their level. And also, we also didn't fund a number of programs that were funded from last year, perhaps prioritizing that somehow in the rubric. Those are my kind of 3 creative thoughts in order to kind of deal with this immense need. As you've heard, we do not disagree. We would love to, I think, give more funding across the state, and in particular to these counties that are particularly hard hit. It's just the funding is just so sparse on this grant.
Thanks, Juan. Franny?
Yes, thank you. I just will share my comment, but before that, would strongly support, Dwan, your idea or suggestion to the commission of working to see if there's a way to allow for a more condensed expenditure of funds. In other words, having organizations having the opportunity or flexibility to spend across a shorter amount of time than longer, depending on their situation and what makes the most sense for community. I just wanted to share one, start off by saying, as a member of the PDI committee, I saw the hard work and the scoring teams and staff's work to do it. It is a really difficult thing to juggle, and to say the least, in a really difficult times. And so I offer up my 2 points, really more as a sense of thinking about how to continue to improve our work and do these things in a way that has the greatest impact for community. I'll also say I think it was a great show and an exercise of our value to be responsive and listen to our partners. They're not just grantees, they're collaborators and partners. And so trying to make the adjustments, going back to the drawing board, says a lot about putting our values in practice. That said, I guess a couple of points I'll make. I think the biggest request or recommendation is that I've been now involved in a few processes where we have to go through these exercises. And I do think that it's incumbent upon us to get a little bit more structured. I think, for staff to maybe work on more established equity frameworks as to how do we do an exercise and ensure that it's going to have equitable impacts. I'm sure there are a lot of sister agencies across the state that have these same issues and maybe have developed some ways of how to protect equity and how to really do exercises like this in a more transparent and structured way that employs some frameworks. I think it's important for us to do that. I think One, we're blessed to have really amazing commissioners, but I think frameworks that people can understand that put equity at the center in a very sort of proven way is important as well. And I think it's innate for us as commissioners, so we're not put in these spots to do it. So again, would strongly encourage that moving forward, we start thinking about how we can apply more structured, equity-based type of frameworks to do exercises like this versus going back and kind of doing it. And I'll share why. I'll express my disappointment and concern that I think I did vote to support us adding more organizations, but did explicitly ask about how we were going to do the reallocation of funding because of the great needs that do exist and the disparities in those needs across the state. So I will say that in looking at some of these adjustments, they do dig deeper into areas that I think you've heard already are going to experience very disparate impacts. And I get the regional diversity, but there's also community diversities and disparate impacts, which we've learned very well in life or death situations during COVID. And I think these will play out the same way. So when I see this, the idea of we need a more structured, more controlled, and more equitable way to make these decisions, I point out certain pieces where we're prioritizing inland communities, but some of the largest variances between requested and funded are in the Inland Empire, CRLA, San Bernardino areas. LA County seems to have taken major hits in the way that we cut it. That's not to say there's intentionality behind it. I think that demonstrates not having a structured, validated tool to ensure equity in what we do. And so, again, we'll close my comments by saying, I think our efforts are right. Our values are in exercise. I think we're lacking the tools to ensure equity, and we should work to have those so that we can have consistency in how they're applied across any program or situation. And we'll note that I am concerned about some of the totals that ramped up here, and some of them don't seem to align with the idea we're prioritizing Fresno and inland communities when I see some of the funding outcomes.
Thank you, Efrain. Erica?
I think all I was really going to say is more generally to just sort of echo some of Judge Rossi and Aaron's comments. Having done these discretionary grants, they are very hard. There are a lot of really good applications. It is very challenging to determine how to distribute both to the particular programs and the actual limited funds that we have. So I do want to just say, I think I'm very grateful for all of the work that the working group did, that the staff did, and that the PDI committee did in kind of addressing all of this. I will note this was all done in a very expedited timeline. I think, Efrain, your point about having some structures in place so that when we have more expedited grants, especially given that we, I think it's sort of on our strategic plan to be kind of one of the state's premier grant administration organizations. I am certainly open to, and whether this is something that goes through Rules Committee or through PDI, kind of developing formal or informal kind of structures. I will say, I think in other discretionary grants, we haven't faced this kind of issue. And I think it's in part because we have more time and there was more of an opportunity to like have these discussions and like think through some of it. But maybe to Efrain's point, like having some tools in place might be helpful. And I'm happy to help staff, if you need ideas on this. Efrain, I think I would encourage you to, volunteer as well. I think sometimes it can be difficult to figure out exactly how to implement those frameworks. And especially because, equity is really mushy, right? Like, there's very wide variety of populations. What those populations need is really different. And then there's also the broader context of like how many funds already go to particular communities. So I say all that with the ultimate view that, you know, I ultimately support this. I think the working group and the committee has done a lot of really good work. That doesn't mean that we can't have other considerations going forward, but I ultimately think you guys have put a lot of thought into this, and I'm very grateful that you've done all this work so that we can deploy these funds. Like, and so I'm just providing my support on this.
Thanks, Erica. Selena?
I do not envy the folks who had to score this. I know Erin and Judge Rossi had a difficult time just because of the tight timeline. I did request at a prior meeting, and I think it would be helpful moving forward for grants like this that are competitive, that they are, you know, there may be one tranche, another tranche later. I do think it's helpful to share who received the funding in the past. And whether or not that should have any weight could be a separate discussion, because when there is a new project that needs to be launched, some organizations may be able to already have existing staff that they can move over, but some organizations may need to hire. And so I think that could be a consideration in the future if there were any urgency in getting the funds out and spent. Just by comparison, and I think, you know, Dwan or others could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the last time that this body made a decision on these grants, the original allocation was only like $11 million for 3 years, and there were far fewer organizations that applied and far fewer organizations that received funding. And I think this really does reflect the crunch of financial need in our community, that many more organizations applied, and they may be doing the work with other funds and they've just decided to apply, but it is showing a huge need. And that's why there's such strong feelings in the public comment, is because organizations see the work needs to happen and they don't have other dollars to do the work.
Thank you, Selena. Dwan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna, support Ephraim, like, in that I think the commission needs to kind of, I think, have a really philosophical question about like its grant making priorities and how we do it. I will say though about the transparency piece, we are the only funder that I know that does grant making in public like this. And I think this is partly why you hear the public comments expressed the way it is, because for a lot of funders, especially government funders, there's not a face to who's reviewing the application. I do want to underscore that I think the commission does a really great job at trying to be transparent, at trying to be responsive, as giving a face to who's scoring, both commissioners and staff, and being responsive. I think part of this procedurally, in terms of publishing, and I'm just going to be very direct, publishing grant awards and then going back and really making an attempt to try to do a better job and a more thoughtful job, but then they are already kind of in the public sphere. I think maybe that left a lot to be desired. So I think that's a procedural question. I think we tried to make this a December 1st start date so that there would be less of a gap. And in doing that, you see we crunched 3 weeks worth of work that usually is done in two months. And in some instances, it's a 4-month process. So it's very, very time crunched. So I think where we landed are, I will say, good recommendations given the time limitations and the amount in this. I don't know though it's for lack of transparency relative to what other funders do. I think there's always a better way to do it, a more transparent way. But part of this is because of the transparency. But I do think the equity issue is something that the commission needs to grapple of, and what really are the values in terms of grant making and the priorities. Those are very large conversations. And another thing that I will highlight is when you're reviewing a grant application, we have this debate all the time in our office. Are we doing it in the 4 corners of the application, or should the staff and the commission be taking into consideration kind of other data factors, other considerations? I tend to think yes, but how much and what those are, I think that needs to be a discussion that the commission really, really needs to be thoughtful and think through.
Thanks, Dwan. I agreed. Jason, go ahead.
Just a rather minor technical query, but I think in the future, if we're looking at a table like this, I've been trying and like reading, like trying to like figure out like, okay, where did our funding recommendation values come from? I know they're supposed to be proportionate, but I'm missing the calculation fields, or however we figured out how to divvy out the funds. I'm trying to like work it back and like follow along how we got there. And I'm struggling from what is presented. I'm sure it exists somewhere, but I don't see it here, or I'm missing the connection.
So in terms of where the recommendations came from, it wasn't just a straight proportional calculation. And I hope that helps clarify why working backwards isn't possible within the table. But it was, as I said, an overall analysis of proposed budgets, capacity. So depending on the project being implemented, the staffing levels being requested, the deliverables being suggested, all of those went into considerations of funding levels. So for some organizations, for example, they may be able to provide a project if they received a certain amount of funding. Another smaller organization, there's no way they could have trimmed their staffing any smaller within the proposed project. And so a part of that was taken into account when making the funding recommendations. On top of providing need across the state, there's a level below which you are not providing meaningful support. And I think that really becomes the challenge when you have 58 counties to contend with. If you are trying to distribute what is essentially a little over 5 million funds a year or dollars a year across 58 counties, but you need to provide a meaningful level of funding across those counties, those numbers become really small really quick in order to preserve meaningful support. So it was not a direct proportional calculation that we could make when coming up with the funding recommendations. It really was something we had to sit and grapple with. And Judge Rosie and Aaron will attest to the fact over very long discussions and long meetings where we took it point by point and considered each one of those pieces of analysis. So I'm sorry I can't provide like a very specific calculation, but I hope that does answer the question that you're trying to get at with this table, Jason.
It answers the question that I won't be able to see it. Yes, I think
Yeah.
I think I'm still struggling with understanding the basis for the decision. Not like, you know, looking at a variety of these and their scores and their locations and the presumably demographics served. Like, I'm seeing some pretty big spreads between the proposed funding amounts, and I lack an explanation as to that detail, which seems to resonate here. And it might be detailed elsewhere, and I trust that there was due consideration. I'm feeling like I don't have the information to explain why we have, even between what seem like relatively similarly situated grantees, pretty significant swings and gaps.
I think a really important and large context actually is in the applications and the proposed projects. So depending on the proposed projects, there are some projects there you could provide a scaled back version of services with some scaled back funding. There are other projects that, as budgeted, were trimmed pretty closely. And those are not necessarily straightforward. I love math, I love data, everybody will attest to that. But these were not straightforward calculations that we could apply to projects because the nature of the projects and the nature of the direct services really varied widely from application to application. So when looking at the recommendations, the proposed projects themselves are a huge part of these funding recommendations and how the scoring team landed where they did.
So I'm gonna, we've got 3 comments that I'll take, and then I think we need to get to a vote. We're in the interest of time, I do want to just underscore one thing, and that's now been mentioned a couple of times, that, you know, this is, there's always room for improvement. There's always opportunities to take situations like this to reflect on how we can do things better. And in that vein, appreciate the comments from the community and the program specifically. But Jason, to this point, and I think this is something that I hope it's been clear, but just to underscore is that this is and we've been doing this kind of vetting and scoring in some way or another for a very long time, which is really tied to looking at particular programs and trying to come up with a number that fits not just, do we have the funding available, but is that funding going to be meaningful to the project that's being proposed? And, those are both constraints that are sometimes at odds with each other, and there's a lot of tension there. And so it does take a lot of time, and sometimes it's not, easily discernible from a chart. Most times it's not easily discernible from a chart, but there were hours and hours and hours spent on this to kind of develop these numbers. They didn't just come out of a formula or a hat. And I again, want to reiterate gratitude for those of you who were involved in doing this, because it's not easy, and it's not easy to do so with such constraints. A threefold reduction in or a number that's threefold, a third of what was requested. So Jackie, do you go ahead?
Just very quickly, first of all, just really want to thank the commissioners and staff who worked on this, because it is, this is a complex issue when you have this amount of funding request versus what we had to provide. And I'm thinking that this may be a good example of an opportunity to take advantage of AI-related resources that other funders in the community have utilized, taken advantage of. So maybe we can research that and see if there are any good AI solutions to help. Not that they're going to be perfect, because those are also works in progress, but I think it would be a good way to complement what we've already been doing. So, and we have a lot of experience doing this throughout the years, but the situation that we are facing right now economically across the country and in the state of California makes things a lot more complex. So I hope that there's a way for us to get some AI assistance with this, because that was a lot of funding applications, and there are a lot of complexities that go into the budgets that those grantees are requesting. And of course, we want to demonstrate that, we don't take that lightly. And we want to, at the same time, we need to protect our equity values, going back to what Ephraim was talking about. That's really, really important. So thanks to everyone who did all the work on this. Is really, I don't envy them either.
Thank you, Jackie. Ken, go ahead.
2 points, one minor and one a little more broad in scope. First, the minor point. In the future, if we have a situation like this where there is a public-facing publication of grant recommendations and then a relook at it in which different recommendations are put forward, I think it would be helpful for both us on the commission and for members of the public to see the side-by-side comparison of what the initial recommendation was and what the new recommendation is. In other words, a column in this table that we have on our screen that shows what the recommendation that the PDI committee considered, and then showed the delta between that and the ultimate recommendation presented to the commission, might help us a little bit in understanding better the scope of the change between the initial proposal and the latter proposal. The more broad comment I have is, going to the important equity issues that Ephraim raised, and going to the issues that Dwan raised concerning whether you look just at the four corners of grant application or whether you look at things outside the four corners of grant application. I would suggest that both of those issues are things that we might want to grapple with at our February in-person planning meeting. I think they're very important for the commission going forward with respect to competitive grant applications, and I think us grappling with them in a meaningful way would be extremely helpful.
Great. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Ephraim?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I know I had already spoken. Just wanted to say a couple of things. One is on the transparency issue. I want to make sure I was clear. I actually value our transparency and how we do our work. I was suggesting it as in advancement of that and in achieving greater levels of transparency, that these ideas of looking at equity, defining some of these scenarios would be good for us. I actually support, I think it's the best we could do with the information and tools available. And I think we're fortunate to have Judge Rosie's and Aaron's leadership on it. So I'm supportive of it. And the last point I'll make is, to Ken's point, I think we should talk about it. We should get more concrete. And the reason being, while we've done this a lot of times before, the reality is that the world has changed. And over the next 5 to 10 years, the needs of people that we have, of organizations that we have been supporting for decades, have blown up and transformed. The communities they're serving are suffering from overlapping crises that are not that simple to say it's just this, right? So it's not anything we're doing. It's we need to adapt to the world that changed. And it is about going to anchoring on equity values, anchoring on ways to have processes that advance that to the best we can. And I support Ken's idea of like, we should have a conversation about this in February. But I just wanted to be clear. I support this. I think it's the best we could do right now with the time and info and tools we had available. I think it was a valiant effort and one that'll be impactful nonetheless.
Thank you, Efrain. I think if we could put up the resolution now, let's see if we have a motion and are in a position.
So the resolution is going to be three-part. One would be a resolution from the commission to approve the list of 17 applicants as recommended by the PDI committee. The second resolution is to approve the scoring team's funding recommendations. The third resolution, which I neglected to mention in my earlier presentation, is requesting that the commission delegate authority to state bar staff to review and approve the grant budgets. And this would be so that funds could be distributed before the end of the year.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Erica's moves.
I'll second.
And Efrain seconds. Let's do a roll call vote.
Okay. Alakani,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Blakemore, Campbell,
Yes.
Falcon,
Yes.
Gonzalez, Huang,
Yes.
King,
Yes, I abstain as to the San Luis Obispo Legal Assistance Foundation.
thank you. Klein,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Morales, Pryor,
Yes.
Judge Rosie,
Yes.
Sanville, Smith,
Yes.
Stalker, Escobedo,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Elseraff,
Yes.
Connolly.
Yes.
That's 15 yeses, 0 nos, 1 abstention. Noted. Motion passes.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you, Mara, and thank you all for that great discussion. I think that was really it was great, and I think that the recommendation to have these discussions further at the February meeting make a lot of sense. I appreciate that. I think I'm going to switch to agenda items 6.5 and 6.6. Let's get into 6.6 first. Sorry, Jennifer, I'm skipping over.
Not a problem.
Just in the interest of time, I want to make sure that we have a full discussion on these items. So 6.6, I'm gonna turn it over to Dwan and Michael Chong.
And I have to apologize because the two staff members who were going to originally present are not available today. So Michael and I will be subbing in. So we'll do the best we can. Michael, do you want to summarize the facts, and then I can then lead the staff recommendation piece? Crystal, can you promote Michael, please?
Yes, we're working on it. One moment.
All right. Thank you all. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Chong. I'm a senior program analyst with State Bar. And we're talking about today's item 6.6 regarding the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law. Just going to take a few minutes to lay some foundation for the commission's discussion. So a little background. The center is, sorry, I'm a little thrown off. The center is a qualified support center with about 8 staff. It provides statewide impact litigation, training, and other legal services to protect the rights of California immigrant and refugee communities. The commission has been funding the center since 1984. And then for the 2025 grant year, the center received a little over $2 million in IOLTA and EAF awards. And then for 2026, it would receive a little over $1.7 million. The center is still spending down its 2024 and 2025 IOLTA awards, for which it submitted 3-year budgets. And as of June 30th, it had about $1.8 million left to spend. And so the State Bar performs monitoring visits for grantees at least once every 3 years, and the center had its visit on September 25th. While reviewing accounts payable testing documents, staff discovered that the center submitted a fidelity insurance claim for $75,197.16 in May of 2024 to cover theft by a former employee. The embezzlement totaled $80,347 across 31 transactions between July 2023 and March 2024. The former employee eventually repaid $5,150 and insurance covered the rest. The events surrounding this theft are the following. The center's executive director became very ill during the summer and fall of 2023. As a result, the center appointed an interim executive director on November 22nd, 2023. However, the previous executive director continued to work intermittently through February 2024, including signing the center's 2024 IOLTA and EAF grant agreements. In the meantime, the interim executive director was able to access the center's bank account until was unable to access the center's bank account until March of 2024, whereupon she discovered the embezzlement. She confronted the employee on April 12, 2024, and the former employee admitted to the theft. The interim executive director notified the center's board leadership between April 15th and April 19th of 2024, and then notified the full board on April 20th. The center never notified the State Bar or the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission about the theft. And then the center's current executive director started in February of 2025. So a couple of findings that we had from the monitoring visit. So staff's September 2025 visit found the following major issues. 1, a failure of the center's board to protect the organization's asset during at least the time of the previous executive director's illness. This created conditions where the embezzlement could happen. For instance, the board, 1, knew that the executive director had stepped back from performing its full responsibilities, failed to appropriately delegate fiscal responsibilities to others in a way that ensured proper internal controls, and failed to provide the interim executive director access to the center's bank accounts until months after their appointment. 2, a failure to notify the State Bar and the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission of the embezzlement within 5 days of discovering it, which the center's IOLTA and EAF grant require. Non-compliance with the center's bylaws regarding board size and interested persons. 4, 3 of the 8 disbursements that staff selected for testing failure to provide appropriate supporting documentation regarding the nature of the expense and approval by an authorized official. And then for the four staff that are staff selected for testing, they were unable to produce timesheet records or other documentations evidencing employee hours worked. And then lastly, there was a failure to close an operating account with Bank of America that is currently dormant. So we do want to emphasize that staff found it very challenging deciding what to recommend for the center's funding in 2026. Staff cannot confirm as today that the center is adhering to sufficient internal controls, nor that its board is exercising sufficient financial oversight to safeguard the center's assets, including its public awards. Therefore, if the commission decides to fund the center next year, staff recommends that, at a minimum, it imposes the conditions that staff described in its memo. And that is it. I want to thank you guys very much, and I will hand it over for discussion. Also, do want to note that the center's executive director, Sergio, might still be attending today and may be available to help answer any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Dwan, did you want to?
Yeah, and I do want to flag that Sergio does have his hand raised. I do want to again re-emphasize what Michael has said. We really struggled with this recommendation. You know, we're in a program that has existed for 40 years. In that 40 years, there actually hasn't been that many instances of embezzlement and fraud. This is a community that actually does very good in terms of compliance. So when something like this happens, we take it very seriously. We really grappled with this because this is an organization that currently provides really essential services in the community. They're a support center that's providing immigration support services, right? So arguably one of the most essential services right now that's happening. With that said, we don't have confidence right now. We cannot confirm. If the commission asked us today, we cannot give you assurance that there are proper internal controls. And we will be providing them with a grant of close to $2 million. So it's a very large amount. So on balance, we think the staff recommendation is probably if you were to fund them, that's probably the minimal amount that would be required to give some type of assurance that these fundings will be spent by an organization with proper internal controls. But I do want to say, underscore that this was a hard recommendation for us. And if the commission chooses to go in a different direction of not finding them ineligible, we would also support that recommendation.
Okay. Erica, maybe. President Erica, can you?
Do you want me to? I can go. I don't know if Sergio wants, if it's good for him to make his statement first, if his hand is raised.
Sure, let's go ahead. Sergio, go ahead.
Thank you again, commissioners, for your careful treatment of this matter. And thanks again to State Bar staff for their nuanced and professional treatment of the facts at issue. I wanted just to take a quick opportunity to confirm that I am here to answer any questions, including not only the facts that were relevant to the embezzlement and victimization of the center in 2024, but also to highlight for you that we do have new financial policies and practices that were born directly out of that incident. We have new staff on hand, and we take very seriously our commitment to safeguard these funds. I also wanted to highlight, and this is in keeping with what you heard from staff earlier, the center has been a partner of the State Bar since 1982. And this is something that has never happened before in the center's history. And it is the product of a perfect storm of an organization that was suffering through the slow and extended loss of its executive director and founding attorney. And given all that, the center was in an unparalleled moment. And once the theft did come to light, center staff not only moved quickly to address the harm, of which there was none. There was full recovery of every funds, and notice was made to several relevant law enforcement and regulatory bodies. I don't emphasize that to shift your attention from our failure, because we own that, but just to emphasize to you the context here. And finally, I'll note that the work that we do is incredibly important, and it has met previous success. Because of the center and its efforts, every undocumented child in the United States has a right to a public school education, as recognized through Plyler v. Doe. The center is currently lead counsel on a longstanding Flores settlement agreement, which safeguards necessary conditions for children in immigrant jails and prisons throughout the country. And just as of 3 weeks ago, filed a lawsuit on behalf of a potential class of immigrant and refugee survivors of serious crimes, including sexual assault and crimes during trafficking, to ensure that they are not targeted by this administration, unlawfully arrested, imprisoned, and expelled from their home communities here in California and throughout the country. So I stress to you not only the value of the work that this organization does, but also its long track record of being a good and effective steward of public funds. And to that, I will just add, I understand the concerns that get raised by moments like this, because my own career before my current position was focused on fraud, waste, and abuse. I previously served as the first Inspector General for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, following the attempted theft of $35 million. And after that, I served as the Chief Fraud, Waste, and Abuse investigator for the Controller's Office here in the city of Los Angeles, helping manage audit staff and investigators looking at processes at the second largest city in the United States. So I understand the issues and flags that these issues raise for you. And I can tell you that you have a partner in me in making sure that we regain your trust and we ensure that these kinds of issues never repeat. I am on hand to answer any questions that you have. And thank you again for your time and energy and your partnership.
Thank you, Sergio. Erica, go ahead.
Great, thank you. So I will say, I understand this is a very tough call, but I just need to express that I still have significant concerns that despite the fact that this embezzlement occurred back a year and a half ago, there are still findings of internal control lapses. That really gives me a lot of pause. I understand Sergio's point that there are certain financial policies that might have been developed after that, but I find it quite interesting that even in the responses to the monitoring site visit, those continue to be a work in progress. There continues to not be like sufficient compliance with the bylaws, like that there's continues to be, I think, oversight and compliance issues, and it's a lot of money that we're going to be administering, and we have our audits requirements as well. So I just say all that to say I have a serious worry about continuing to find this entity eligible, given that there continues to be internal controls problems that were identified fairly recently. The other thing I'll just note, I appreciate the work that they're doing as far as impact cases. I'm kind of curious, and Sergio, maybe you can provide some details on this. Your position is as a support center. So can you provide us with some information about the work that you do as a support center to QLSPs and how you provide that help to the broader legal aid community, aside from the lawsuits that you bring?
Can we promote Sergio back?
Oh yeah, sorry. It's just something that I didn't see in the response letter, and I'm very curious about, how many QLSPs you've served, what kind of support you've provided to them, what kind of trainings, because that is the designation that you've applied for as for eligibility. So I would love to get some more details about that role in the broader ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Connolly. We do provide.
You can just call me Erica.
Thank you, Erica.
But thank you.
We do provide a steady stream of trainings focused on actionable work that QLSPs can engage in, including emphasis on ICE authority to enter particular sites and how to better care for our immigrant and refugee communities. We also provide routine advice to folks who reach out to us related to immigrant and refugee issues and related laws. And our plaintiffs and co-counsel on the cases that we bring are QLSPs. And our generation of those lawsuits is in constant collaboration and work with them. So the center has a proud history of embedding itself within those communities, working to learn about the needs of the community and ensuring that the lawsuits that it brings are actually meeting real need, especially in moments like this. So just in sum, we do provide a steady stream of training, including that focused on issues that are relevant to California communities right now, with the ICE raids and other relevant issues. Also focused on the lawsuits that we bring to build education around that and ensure that the findings in those lawsuits are informing practitioners throughout the immigrant rights space. We do the consultations that I've mentioned on a routine basis. And we also work with them to improve their impact work and litigation work that is independent of the center.
Can I ask, and I'm sorry to take time, but I just want to ask, do you have actual like numbers? You say a steady stream. Is that what, like how many trainings have you done this year? How many calls have you accepted? Do you have actual numbers on that? I'm just kind of curious to see kind of what that means.
Yes, I can tell you that center staff that is listening in is already offering to pull it.
Perfect.
Provide
you don't have to answer. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I would
No.
love to have that information when it's available.
And
For
Eric,
sure.
State Bar staff has some numbers from their 2026 IOLTA application. So one thing I pulled because of your question was, I see that they provided at least one instance of a training, a technical assistance, or advocacy support to 50 different QLSPs in 2025, like at least one service to 50 different QLSPs in 2025. So 50 unique organizations.
As in like 50 different organizations called potentially? I just want to make sure I understand how that
Yeah,
works.
so-
Or is it like if 30 people went to one training, that's 30?
So it's like, for example, if like two QLSPs went to one training, they each received one instance of service. So 50 organizations had a touch point in 2025.
Well, we don't know across how many, I think what Erica's asking, like how many events, like is that one training or we don't have that information?
We can get you that information and we will. I don't.
And it could go the other direction too, that one QLSP could have many different touch points, but it's only counted.
Sure, that's fair. I was trying to just get a sense because that wasn't in the response. And so I will, there's other people who want to talk, so I will stop. But if you have that information, Sergio, I really appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks to your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Efrain, go ahead.
Yeah, just thank you for that. And just a quick, I had a quick question for Sergio, but then a question for staff on the recommendation, just a clarification question. And for Sergio, I'm just curious, Sergio, in your, right now you should be in your audit, right, for your fiscal year 2025. So I'm just curious, since this incident, have you changed your auditors?
You mean the audit team that we had in place when the embezzlement took place, or the audit team that created the audit that captured the embezzlement?
Yeah, since the incident, was the auditor that captured the embezzlement the same auditor that had done the prior year's audit? And then have you changed auditors basically since the incident is my question too.
No, they are a new audit team. So the teams that we were using for audit work before the embezzlement are not the same as the ones that we are using now. If I understand your timeline correctly.
Yes, that was my question. And then the question for staff on the resolution is I'm just curious, if you can share a little bit more about your vision of this playing out, because I noticed that you were intentional to reference independent evaluators versus an independent auditor to come stress test things. And so I'm just curious if you could share a little bit into, I read it as you were intentional to say, use that word versus auditor. And so wondering if you could share more about what is that entity or what you're envisioning that stress testing might look like.
Chris, could you help me with that one?
Yeah, so we intentionally picked a word that would give a little bit more wiggle room to the center. If it wanted to propose an evaluator, like it could be an auditing firm to do this assessment and not have to lock them into like it being a particular type of CPA firm. So we try to give them a little bit of wiggle room. But if the commission wanted to adopt staff's recommendation, but specify that they work with an auditor, we could swap out that word in the resolution.
Yeah, and the reason I asked too is because the products could be different. And so the one thing that I'll share my perspective on the resolution that doesn't necessarily address some of Erica's questions, which I think are good and we should really dive into, is in the second further resolved, right? We're talking about then another consultant that assesses. So there's a little bit like what I'm not getting the sequencing. But the one thing I feel could be missing that is important for us is none of this references an actual plan, improvement plan or plan of action that I think could be very important in terms of, you know, risk management. And we're trying to help the center potentially get stronger and recover from this. And so just notice that it didn't reference that. It referenced a lot of evaluation consultant, but nothing concrete about when you work with this auditor or sort of evaluator that will stress test, sort of any findings having an actual action plan with dates and how that will be resolved.
Judge
I mean,
Rossi?
should Judge Rossi go?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if Rain was done.
I thought there might be a question. A question.
No,
at the
so,
end,
sorry.
but-
Yeah, no, it was
No,
just
no, no.
pointing
Go
out
ahead,
that I
Chris.
didn't
I
see.
think we're in the same boat.
Sorry, I was waiting to be called on because I felt like I left it hanging there. I wasn't sure. So I have a couple of questions / comments / concerns. First of all, I think there's no question that the center does, you know, important work and great work, and obviously they've been funded for over 40 years by the state bar. I'm a little troubled by some of the things that I read, and I think actually Sergio may have even said it again during public comment, and that's this idea that there were no public funds lost. There were public funds lost, and then there were public funds brought back by an insurance company that made the center whole, but there were public funds that were lost. It's a little bit like saying if my car is stolen and the insurance company gets me a new one, that my car wasn't stolen, and it was. And so, and that doesn't sit right with me, because it feels a little bit like we're saying it's not as big a deal because the money came back eventually. And it is, I think it is a big deal. For me, the real question I have and concern I have has to do with the center's board. I sit on a couple of nonprofit boards. The boards have a fiduciary duty to oversee the agency. It's not like you're on the board just to put it on your resume or to go to a couple of meetings. This is a fiduciary duty. And I guess what I want to know is if the same group of people, the same board of directors are still there, because at least one board of director members signed the grants that they said later they didn't know what they said. And if I read the memo correctly, the general counsel of the center also sits on the board. Presumably the general counsel would have read the grant contracts and would have known what it said. And yet The only reason that we even know this happened is because the state bar went and did its job and found it out. So I'm a little concerned that if the same folks are still on the board and the same folks are still making decisions, that it's hard to have confidence and hand over another $1.7 million, especially since the state bar staff found other financial issues that still exist. And it sounds like that wasn't the only sort of fiscal problem there was. So I guess my question, and I don't know if Sergio's still here because I can't see him on the Hollywood squares of commissioners, but I guess I am really troubled by the lack of action by the board of directors, and I am really troubled that no one reported this to the state bar, despite 40 years of contracts with the state bar, all of which I'm guessing said you have to report fraud. So
Sergio has got his hand up. Let's give him the opportunity to respond.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for further opportunity to inform your thinking on this. And I do want to highlight that the staff recommendation is not to hand over the funds immediately. It is to undergo necessary Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Did you hear anything before then?
Necessary was the last word that I heard.
Okay. So we see the recommendations as necessary. None of the funds will be dispersed unless we satisfy the recommendation related to our fiscal policies and practices. And we intend to make use of that opportunity to ensure that our systems are in place. I also want to emphasize that a lot of the issues that were flagged in the monitoring report took place around the time of the embezzlement when the center's board, its then executive director, and its staff were reeling from the impacts of the illness that we have highlighted before. And I did not mean to downplay the loss of the funds by saying that there was no real loss of the public monies. I just meant to highlight that the money was recovered. There's been a couple of issues that have been raised by several statements, so I want to address some of the ones that have passed. In 2025, we conducted 7 trainings, and we have 4 more planned before the end of the year. 64 different organizations have attended, QLSPs have attended across those trainings, and 500 individual staffs of those QLSPs have attended those trainings. And so that's just Erica's question about trainings, and we can get you figures on advice also. I want to again acknowledge that there was a failure to report the fraud in a timely fashion, but there's no indication, right, that there was any attempt to evade the reporting requirement. I would just want to highlight to you again the perfect storm that was taking place then. And to answer the question related to board composition and responsibility, we have added 1 new board member since the embezzlement, and we are working to add more board members and to update the board's bylaws. That is why we welcome the recommendation from staff related to that particular issue. And so we are working diligently to support the institutions at the center that serve as fiscal fiduciaries, and we intend to keep doing that.
Okay, Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in support of the staff's recommendation. I'm, as a former executive director of a legal services program in Southern California, I'm very familiar with the center's work. We had at my former organization, we had a very large and robust immigration project, and our staff regularly relied on trainings that the center provided. They really were known and are known as true experts in the field. As to the issue of and I think Efren, you were the one who raised this issue as to the language of auditor versus evaluator. I would support keeping the word evaluator in so that perhaps on some of these board issues that Judge Rossi was talking about, it may not be that an auditor is the best person to be looking at the practices of the center. Maybe a lawyer experienced in nonprofit organizations is a better person to do the kind of review as to what best practices would be that would satisfy the state bar's concerns. And finally, I don't think we can overlook the impact of the loss of the organization's founder and executive director, who was an iconic figure in the Southern California immigration bar, well known by anyone who came within 15 feet of an immigration matter. He was really a force larger than life, and his loss, no doubt, had a traumatic effect on the organization, board and staff alike. And I think this unfortunate embezzlement incident was just, as Sergio said several times, a perfect storm that I don't think we're at risk of seeing happen again, particularly with Sergio's commitments to the recommendations made in the staff's report.
Thank you, Ken. Erica?
So I just want to point something out. The monitoring visit occurred in September 25th, 2025. That is less than 2 months ago. And these findings were not exclusively as to things that happened around the embezzlement. They pulled, I'm looking at their monitoring report right now, there were other transactions that they pulled from that time that didn't have documentation supporting them. The board members continued despite that. So I would just like to push back on the characterization that all the findings had to do with the issue of the embezzlement, which happened in 2024. My concern is that the embezzlement didn't actually trigger for the organization the requisite necessity to actually improve upon their internal controls. And that instead it is our staff and the good work that they did in the monitoring visit that actually uncovered the fact that there was this insurance claim and this embezzlement, that uncovered these other internal control issues. And frankly, I would be curious from staff, was every other monitoring staff visit prior to this one clean? A situation where this is unique, like a unique finding? Because if this is consistent with findings in other monitoring staff visits and reports, then I have even more concerns about the fact that, they continue to not have the robust kind of internal controls that are necessary. This is not to say that they don't do good work or anything like that, but we also have an obligation, and I fully acknowledge I am the oversight hawk here, but we have an obligation to ensure that our funds are provided to entities with financial controls. We have our own audits. We have the oversight that we are under and the scrutiny that we are under. So I just would like to put that out there. And I know other people would like to speak.
I can answer the question about previous visits to say that the center's triennial visit before this one was in 2022. It did have fiscal findings, and they were sufficient to necessitate a follow-up visit in 2023, where the center was able to resolve most of them. The findings were different, but not entirely inconsistent insofar as some did have to do with internal controls.
Thank you, Chris. Is it Vanetta or Jody? Vanetta, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for all the robust discussion. I think that, employees' transitions and loss, the empathy and compassion are there for a grieving organization. But I think beyond that, I've heard what I'm concerned about, kind of echo what Judge Rossi was saying. There's a breakdown in terms of oversight, monitoring, HR monitoring, organization, infrastructure development. And then as far as the board's concerned, there's no risk management strategy. Because any organization can go through a crisis, and the question is, what's your contingency plan? An interim position is temporary, but it doesn't speak to that, the foundation that should have been established for organizations been involved for 40 years to kind of avert those things from happening. I mean, the employee situation was opportunistic, but I think the concerns about the infrastructure are far more, need to be deeply evaluated. So I do have concerns about that.
Thank you, Vanetta. Tony?
Yeah, I really want to speak to like what Judge Rossi and Vanetta just said about oversight and continuity of businesses. And maybe it's not just for this agency alone, but a lot of the entities that receive grants from us are smaller agencies. And that is an area of concern, is that, you know, if the leadership is not available, like how does the business continue? And another thing is segregation of duties. I feel like there probably was a problem with segregation of duties that led to embezzlement of funds during this time. And as much as I understand that this organization like provides great value to the community, I think that it's still too early to make a determination to, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't feel like I have enough information to make a to kind of support allowing them to have the fund. I feel that we need more than just a plan. I feel more needs to be done first in order for us to even consider it. So I'll yield.
Thank you, Tony. Dwan, could you also speak to sort of what, if there's an alternative to this as well?
Yes, I was just going to speak that, but I do want to quickly respond to what Erica said in terms of is this a typical finding? In terms of when we go out on monitoring visit, we send out our program staff and our fiscal staff. What our fiscal staff does is they pull transactions at random. We pulled 10 transactions, as you see in the docket. 3 of them came back with not proper documentation, one of them being the fraudulent what happened a few years ago. The other 2, this is why it's concerning to us. We would have liked if fraud happens or something of this severity, that the next time the organization would know to then have really pristine internal controls. What gives us a lot of pause is that this organization has known that this has happened 2 years ago, and they have not remedied the situation. And again, it's a very small sample size. And that's why when we go on a monitoring visit, we call it a monitoring visit, and we don't call ourselves auditors because we do very small sample size testing. But in the small sample size, 3 of the transactions had issues. So do other organizations have issues like that? Yes, there are findings of insufficient documentation. However, with those other organizations, there is also not the coupling of fraud happening in more recent era. So I think that's the piece that is very troubling to the staff. The other piece I will say is in terms of the oversight piece, the executive director was kind of in and out of his duties when he was sick, but the board failed to provide the interim executive director at that time with controls of their financial systems in order to have the second signator in place. So they have policies in place. Where we see the lack is the implementation of those policies. It's not happening in practice. And so that is where our concerns are in terms of the mixed match of policies in place and the execution of the policies in place by now a governing board that is still in place. And then I will speak to alternatives. So, you know, I've been talking to Erica and Amin about like procedurally, because this all happened, as you know, we only went on the monitoring visit very recently. You had all kind of decided on eligibility before we you cited eligibility in August, and then we went on the monitoring visit, and now we're bringing it to you. So if the commission can't comfortably come to a decision or would not like to come to a decision today, what we can do is then you have a couple alternatives. You can all reconvene as a commission in December, which is very difficult for quorum. You could also delegate this to the executive committee, and the executive committee has talked about this at the executive committee procedurally in terms of taking this on. That is an alternative as well. So there are a couple options at your fingertips if you're all not ready to move forward with a vote today.
Thank you, Dawn. Patience. Go ahead.
As I understand the recommended action, it is what is before us is not, are we going to give this organization $1.7 million? That is not the question on the floor. Question on the floor is, do we approve the investigative and potential remedial action that staff has proposed? I think it's important, yes, oversight, absolutely, preventative action to make sure that our money doesn't send somebody to Tahiti when that's not what it's for. Absolutely, but our role is not to punish. And yes, there was, there's everything everyone said about what was the matter with what the board did and how, and the delay in making changes and all of that. Yes. Question really, to my mind, is, does this organization provide value? And if they do, then let's make sure they can continue to do that. Let's not be foolish about giving them a bunch of money when they don't have controls to ensure it's properly used. But let's not be punitive either. You screwed up, you're dead to us. That's silly. And that's inconsistent with our goal, which is to ensure that people get served by organizations that can serve them well. And what we know about this organization is it has a history of good service to the people that it cares for, that it is responsible for, and that it also has a history of failure to implement appropriate controls. And my question is can we confidently at this point, based on whatever we learned from this independent third party, et cetera, can we confidently entrust money to these folks? We do not know the answer to that question right now because this analysis has not occurred yet. So let's do the analysis and see what it says. And it may say, yeah, they're still doing the same old stuff, in which case we'll say, too bad, so sad. Or we may learn that they have, they're back on the straight and narrow, and that we can entrust them with state funds. So that seems to me to be the question, not are we giving them the money to?
Thanks, Patience. I do want to sort of inject one thing into this, which is, and it's been said that, one of the challenges of being on this commission is that we are oversight over dozens and dozens and dozens of organizations that are doing tremendous, excellent, impactful work. And the goal obviously is to make sure that they're able to do that, but we also have a fiduciary duty to provide funds that will make an impact and that we're confident will make an impact because of controls and those sorts of things. And I think sometimes, again, like we talked, there's a tension between those two things, and it can be a hard decision. I think one of the things that also is on the table, perhaps, is for us to find that the organization's ineligible for the funding. We can make that finding now, then they won't get funding for 2026, but they'll be welcome to reapply for 2027, hopefully with a new slate of, having done an audit and having sort of gone now through the process again of making sure that we are convinced, or we are shown that this is that they've resolved the issues that have come up. So I do want to throw that out there. But Angie, go ahead.
Well, I understand patience, and of course that's what Dawn started out with, was that we err on the side of trying to keep things going and finding a way not to defund. And I understand the arguments that they've had all these years and nothing seems to be done. Most people resist change and who knows why, and I don't have any idea of the background of their board, their composition, but I know it's sometimes very difficult to get new board members, especially if they come on like after a scandal, etc. But I am curious as to the people who are reluctant to go ahead with the resolution as it is, what would it take to bring you on board? What kinds of extra timelines or deadlines or specific controls would do the trick? And maybe we'll add them and then it'll pass. And nothing specific?
Judge Rocio, maybe you can speak to that, and I know you have a comment anyways.
I probably can. I was just going to jump in, and I thought maybe Angie was directing it at me since I had made comments. I don't know that I want to say let's defund them right now, but I am also not comfortable with the resolution the way that it's written. We are in fact stewards of these public funds. We are charged with making sure that they are spent correctly. They weren't. I am deeply concerned, again, and I can't stress this enough, that they've been receiving money for 40 years. I'm guessing the grant applications, all 40 years, said you have to report fraud. And I can't, these are, smart, capable folks, and you can't tell me that they didn't know that they weren't supposed to tell the state bar. They told a lot of other people. Why wouldn't you tell the people who gave you that money? And so I think we have to do something more than what the resolution says. I don't know that I necessarily know what that is. I think Dwan said kicking it to the executive committee, is an option. I'm not opposed to that. I just think that we have, and it sounds like what Sergio said in response to my earlier question, is that the board is exactly the same, plus they added one new person. So I don't know how I can say I feel confident that the same group of people who breached their fiduciary duty 18 months ago are still there, and we're going to entrust them. Again, just be, and again, this isn't about the great work they do, because I am sure they do great work and have for a long, long time. But we have a fiduciary duty as a group to protect the public funds we are distributing. And I just don't know how I can say that this is enough, given all that we've heard so far. So I'm open to other people's suggestions or kicking it to exec staff. And I'm not saying at this exact moment I want to defund them, because I don't think we have enough information to say that. But what we propose is not enough.
Thanks, Judge
That's all I
Rocio.
got. Thanks.
Let's Dwan.
Yeah, I
and
have
Erica,
a
and then
I have a
Sergio.
question for Grady and Raul, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot because I actually didn't think of this as an option before, so I don't know if this is possible. Do we have to find them eligibility or ineligible before the end of the grant year? Because if we hold off on finding them eligible and let them take, because if they're realistically going to find an evaluator and auditor, it's going to take several months. Can the commission determine their eligibility mid-year once they come back to us, and the whole commission can review that report, and then we can release funds? So it's essentially the same thing, but we're not giving them a
there's
vote
no
of
finding
confidence.
of, you can't give funds unless you find eligibility.
Yeah, so we won't give them funds. So it's essentially the same thing, except we're not finding them eligible. We will hold off, defer eligibility. They can come back to us at a time where they still have, the commission can then evaluate their internal controls. Hopefully the evaluator, the auditor can confirm their, but it would be, if we go that course, they're not going to be able to do it by December. It's going to be probably realistically, even on a quick scenario, we're looking at spring, the summertime. Is that an option for the commission? Because that might straddle the line of actually finding them eligible, which I do share that concern, and not releasing funds, but giving them opportunity, and then we can release the funds.
Yeah, I think the resolution should say, that there's no, the eligibility, the commission has not been able to determine eligibility yet, and directs the following to happen, and we'll reconsider it once this happens or on a date certain. I think just being clear about that. But
But we don't need
Yeah,
to do it
there's
before
no-
the end of the year. I think my concern is the statutory requirement is to release these, we have to release funds every year according to the statutory formula. What we'd be doing is holding these
But we have to
funds.
release them to people who've been found eligible, and we haven't found them eligible.
But we still are not required to distribute what we've already voted in the distribution amount. It's, to me, it's just a timing issue. I guess.
Well, I mean, with the commission needs to act to rescind the previous finding.
Okay. So I guess that is
Also,
one more
how do
option at your
you-
fingertips.
But how do you, sorry to butt in, but like, how do you hold the allocated money from them just like aside? How does that
We
work?
just put it aside. If you don't find them eligible, we would roll into the distribution for next year. I mean, that's just a technical thing that we don't release funding because they're not found eligible. It would just sit in the IOLTA account.
But there's no requirement that like there's no like statutory requirement that we distribute all the funds to the entities that have been deemed eligible, and that we are not allowed to just take $2 million and put it on the side.
Yeah, that's my question to Brady. Are we allowed to do that? Because
Well, I mean, I think we just sort of treat it as a reserve. We are allowed to keep a reserve.
but we didn't run the formula with them in it. I did think there's a little bit. That was my question, Erica. I think you're articulating it better than I am.
Did you say you did? You didn't? I heard you didn't run it with them.
We have now ran it with them, yes. So they have done a
Right.
budget for us, and we have the budget we have already approved. If we do this, we are not allocating $2 million that we said we'd be distributing. I just don't know if it's consistent with IOLTA formula, our statutory requirement. But I feel like that could take care of not making determinations to them, letting them time to come back to us to prove that they have internal controls.
Well, you could either I mean, you could either hold it off, or you could, if you wanted to, you could redistribute it now and take if they're found eligible, take that out of the reserve.
I have a question. Is there a larger context here? The state bar has obviously got a lot of criticism in the past, Girardi, et cetera, and not being vigilant in dealing with financial improprieties. If we don't really insist that this group has their house in order, are we opening ourselves up to the criticism of the program?
I can respond to that because we actually have checked with our auditors because we get, as you've heard, we get audited, and our auditors have said the commission has discretion, and I have vetted the kind of our recommendation with our executive staff. I have not spoken, say, to the board of trustees, but our executive staff is very deferential to the commission's decision, and we have checked with our auditors, and if you find them eligible or do not find them eligible, we won't get a finding for that.
No, I'm just talking about the idea that this group sort of we're approving, essentially without what they call punitive or reforms or whatever. I'm wondering how that sits.
No, it's
because there has been so much controversy over the state bar.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I was looking at
Just there's
allocation.
The state bar in a larger context has been the subject of a lot of, and I know there's been reforms, and you have a very good, person in charge of the Office of Chief Counsel, the disciplinary procedure. But there was a lot of negative publicity about the lax safeguards in with the state bar, with Girardi and others. And if someone were to say, look, what they're doing, they're just giving this group ahead embezzler without serious reforms, are we opening ourselves up to not being vigilant? Another example of the state bar being lax in oversight. I'm just talking about a larger question here.
It's a fair point, Judge Klein. And I think it dovetails with the discussion about our fiduciary duties and how we are meeting those duties. Erica?
Erica, did you?
I frozen.
Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Oh, you sort of
froze. Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I'm trying to find a way forward. I would say, just to judge this, what if this consultant to assess and increase like the governance structures and practices. What if that occurred as well before we gave the money out? So in other words, like we're sort of saying like, look, your financial controls have to be in place and your governance has to be in place before we give the money out, and just make it a condition of the distribution. I you know, like not necessarily find them ineligible, but I mean, I like the idea of like waiting and finding them, only finding them eligible after their house is in order, but I'm not sure that it's worth the rigmarole that might be necessary with the money. And I'm not comfortable dipping into our reserves for the $1 or $2 million for that. Like I'm not supportive of that. Either the money has to come out of the, you know, current thing, but I am not comfortable.
Yeah, I think I think that looking at the 6214, the best way is you hold it, and you're basically holding it in reserve, that their money, and then if not, it gets redistributed to the other support centers.
Yeah, and I'm you know, anyway, I'm not comfortable giving it full and having this money go out unless and until I see some more additional reforms. And however we accomplish that, I'm amenable to that. But I see this as an important part of our oversight responsibilities. I think Judge a good point. We have generally had good optics on this because we are careful and ensure that our grantees meet high standards in dealing with our what are essentially public funds. So that's my view on this. And I'll shut up.
There we go. We've got another comment from Jason. I see Sergio and one other person with their hands raised. We've dedicated a lot of time to this subject. We've given a lot of opportunity to respond. In an interest of time, I think let's take Jason's comment and then let's see if we have a motion on the table. Jason?
Thanks, Amin. So I'm kind of in line with Erica, although I will say, even if we do have a viable means to set aside and use the reserve as a mechanism to do that, I'm really not comfortable with that. I would be more comfortable with an idea of either they're conditionally approved and we take some, you know, steps pursuant to that conditional status, you know, as Erica said, or they're for this round not. And, you know, they have to show that they've done the things to be, you know, qualified for a subsequent year. But then the distribution either contemplates them and they are named, not like set aside and reserved off to the side, or it doesn't contemplate them, in which case they're not included in the formula. And I think we have to choose one of those statuses. We can't have a middle step where they're, you know, quasi-eligible, but we're not sure yet, and we're holding it in trust for them, basically, so they can prove it later, and it's in reserve. Like, it just seems like it's not a fair treatment to the rest of the participants who would otherwise be part of the formulaic grant process.
Go on.
So I don't know if this helps or not, but their current grant award, they're proposing to spend it over several years, and they've only spent a fraction of it. And Chris and Michael can probably pull the numbers, but if you found them ineligible, I would hope that maybe they had enough money there to float them until they apply next year, and they wouldn't have to do staff layoffs or close shop. I can't confirm that, but I think Chris, could you tell us what's left in that grant?
As of June 30th of this year, the center has about $1.8 million left in its 2024 and 2025 IOLTA awards to spend.
Thank you, Chris. Judge Wayne Gutierrez, did you have a comment to make? I think you put your hand up and then put it down, so I'm gonna.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. I was thinking my microphone won't work. My thought for the commission is if we deny the funds now, we have no mechanism to really find out. Like if we stay involved now, we can be a part of affirmatively making sure that those controls are in, as opposed to them coming back as an applicant and then them just representing on paper to us. I feel like I echoed Patience's statements that, you know, we're not here to punish people. In some respects, yes, I didn't like the there was no money lost. There was trust broken for the public, right? As well as for us. But nevertheless, they're also, to some extent, they fell victim to the person who defrauded them. That all being said, I think that we shouldn't make any determination on eligibility right now. I think we could go forward. I think we need to be involved in this to assist and identify what do we need to see to give us assurance that we're meeting our fiduciary obligations, and they as well.
Thank you. Erica?
Just to like move us to maybe resolving this, what if we did something like, you know, we have them do the third party, like I'm not comfortable with giving them money without assurances that their stuff is, that their house is in order. To me, and it sounds like everyone's sort of in agreement on that. So then the real question is just, how do we, if we don't want to find them ineligible now and have them redo that and come in later, it's just a matter of like what conditions we put in place before they can obtain the money. And so I think I like this. And I will say, I'm very, very grateful to staff's creativity in coming up with this suggestion. I don't know whether, you know, to me, the way I see this is we have this third party who evaluates, whether it's an auditor, I think it should be an auditor, but an auditor to do financial controls. We have done the consultant thing in the past with another organization that needed help with that. Although I sort of think the consultant should come before the money goes out. I don't think the consultant should be, I think the consultant and the improvement should be a condition before they get the money, just like the third party evaluation. That would be my suggestion, is to have both of those in place and both of those be requirements before the full almost $2 million goes out the door. And then we're helping them, to Judge Wayne Gutierrez's and Patience's and many other people's views. We're helping them succeed. We're helping them provide the services. But I want to see both parts improved before the money goes out.
Do we have a motion? I want to be mindful of time. Do we have a motion to that effect that we can put on the table and see if we can get some traction? Ephraim?
Yeah, I was gonna try Erica. I think I'm when you're at with a slight twist, which is I feel like after all this conversation, this is really about satisfying our trust and what we need to play our role, right, and do it. The organization has its own independent interests for its sustainability to make these changes, but as far as it pertains to us releasing dollars, there's some things we need met. I agree with Judge Rosie that I don't think the resolution presented actually addresses any of these issues and probably is a little rushed. And so I'm supportive of that idea that was floating of like, maybe they should go to XCOM to get the conditions right. The twist I had on if you delegated it to XCOM is to really, I wonder if what we need here is us retaining the auditor evaluator that we want, sending them in there, generating the recommendations of what are the systems needed for your money to be managed right, to then present those as conditions and things we need the organization to address and do. And then they could get their own consultant to say, this is, you know, how you're achieving it or not. Because I feel like, you know, if you just kind of punt it out, how's it really addressing the issues we have and what we need resolved? And I don't think it's inappropriate that we would say, actually, we're going to retain someone, we're going to send them in there, and we're going to generate the conditions that we need. for things to move. So I agree with what you're saying. I feel like
Yeah,
we're
going to
in a situation where
XCOM
to get it,
is,
yeah,
no,
to
I hear you.
XCOM. Yeah, and then we may want to be more involved in what this resolution proposes, which is just punt it back to them until we
Yeah,
can
fair
get the
enough.
conditions.
Okay, do we want to, is that a motion then?
So my motion, I guess, is that we do not take action on this, but my motion is to delegate authority to XCOM to actually work with staff on what is the steps that we actually need on this.
Question, doesn't your motion also call for an outside auditor?
No, I think the idea would be XCOM would have that conversation and ultimately decide what the conditions would be,
Right.
whether it would be, and so I would say one twist I would say is like, what are we at? What authority would we actually delegate? Is it that the commission believes that they should be found eligible, but with conditions, and XCOM is only dealing with the conditions? Or does XCOM have the authority to define them ineligible? So I just want to put that out there.
I think for me would be that
I'm sorry, Jacqueline, I'm
sort of eligible, but to set the conditions. Eligible, but with Exxon to set the appropriate conditions for us to release the dollars.
Jackie?
I agree with what was just said. And I just want to add though, I think it's would be really important to, can we put them on probation or something? Do we have something like that? Because I think they need to take this very seriously. We're giving them a lot of opportunities because we care about the consumers, and that's what we're trying to protect. And that's wonderful, but they need to understand, you know, we're giving you a chance to make the needed corrections, but to reinforce that, I think some type of probationary status or something would be helpful. I don't know if this is something that the commission does or has done in the past, or what.
Thanks, Jacqueline. I don't know that we've done something like, but I think what we're talking about is in that vein of kind of adding extra, you know, barriers before they can be sort of treated as the rest of the organizations that we fund are, in terms of the trust that has been breached and controls over the funding. I see, Vanetta, you've got your hand up. I want to make sure that we can get to a vote before the end of the time. But Vanetta, go ahead quickly.
Just a quick question to make sure I understood what Chris was saying. In the event that they're deemed ineligible for 2026, they currently have 1.8 million to use by December. Is that correct?
For IOLTA to have a longer spend down period. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, the IOLTA for 2024 and 2025 allow for 4 years to spend. They've submitted 3-year budgets for both grants, so they're not behind. They don't have to spend down by the end of this year.
Okay. So they wouldn't lose. They're not going to lose that money. The question is, are we going to fund them for the future, the next cycle?
Right.
For the next year, right?
Okay.
Okay. So I want to
I have a
clarify the motion.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead, Erica, please.
I was just going to put a motion out to basically, and I don't know how, but basically along what Efrain said, which was essentially we move to find them conditionally eligible and delegate to XCOM the authority to set the conditions before a disbursement of the funds.
Okay,
Second that motion.
Jason, his second. Let's do a roll call vote.
Is it helpful, or at Brady or Raul, is it important that we display the text for this vote? In which case I can wordsmith what we have on the screen, or is it sufficient for the recording to just capture what Erica said?
I mean, as a matter of practice, I think it's better to put it on the board. That's what we try to do.
So Erica, I was working on something that was kind of close to what you just said, but because you just said it, I need to make that change. So This essentially will rescind the commission's August 8th determination of eligibility, delegate authority to XCOM to determine eligibility and attach
No,
conditions.
that's not
But what
what
it-
Erica said.
No.
Erica said to
No, no,
find them
no.
eligible.
Yeah. okay.
Conditionally
But
eligible.
find
I don't
them
know.
conditionally eligible.
To rescind
Uh,
the prior unconditional eligibility, to instead find them conditionally eligible, and to delegate authority to the XCOM to determine the conditions of that eligibility.
Instead finds them conditionally.
Chris, would you mind making it a click or two bigger, just in the room? It's
Not at all.
quite small.
Erica, is this?
Thank you.
Did
No,
I capture
no,
what you just said?
you should say, and delegates authority to the executive committee to determine the conditions that CHRCLA must meet.
I'll turn off track changes in just a second.
That's fine.
esta-
For
establish.
final eligibility. Yeah,
Okay, and then should I delete this part here?
yes.
Okay, let me accept these changes and give you a moment to read it one more
Oh,
time.
wait, I don't
just to
think
make
you
sure.
need the until then, that, right? The
Yeah,
the
don't think you
revocation
want that.
and the last
May I
sentence.
delete this
But
final
it's not a
sentence?
revocation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
delete that.
they're reaffirming, they're approving the budgets, yeah.
Okay. And then please just read that once more before we vote. Oops.
Jason, do you still second this version of the motion?
I do.
It's a little clunky, I have to say, because it says eligible and then
Yeah, and then it says
conditionally eligible.
Right.
Yeah, Eric had originally said unconditionally eligible
Yeah.
for 20, and
Well-
instead finds them conditionally.
I mean, it's rescinding the finding that it's eligible for the grants and instead finding them conditionally eligible.
But it's the is eligible and then.
Or it
conditional-
rescinds its
okay,
prior
so
finding that it
that's
is
a prior-
eligible.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know, sorry, it's like a lot of words in there.
Okay, should we any other?
If you wanted to wordsmith it to make it easy, you could just say, like, put a period after grants where there's a comma. And then start a new sentence and say, instead, the commission finds them conditionally eligible.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
And now it will read a little bit more smoothly.
Conditionally.
I'm sorry if somebody put this in, maybe in just, I don't know what final eligibility is, so maybe just add, and receive payments, something like that, so it's very clear what we're
Okay.
talking about.
Where am I?
Okay, so maybe instead of
Yeah,
must
after
meet to
Disbursement of funds. yeah.
receive receive disbursements of
Yeah.
funds. Thanks, Brady. You don't like me making up just statuses for everybody?
No, I mean, it's just, I know what we mean by it, but like, if I was like litigating this, it's like, oh, what does that mean? Like,
No, totally.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm doing it on the fly.
It
Okay.
depends on what the meaning of is.
yeah. Okay, this, very good.
Thank you all. Let's do it. Let's go ahead with our roll call.
Alikani,
I do not approve.
Babcock,
Yes.
Blakemore, Campbell,
No.
Belkin,
Yes.
Gonzalez, Huang,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Morales, Pryor,
Yes.
Judge Rosie,
Yes.
Sandville, Smith, Stalker, Escobedo,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Alsaroff,
Yes.
Annalee?
Yes.
Okay, that's 12 yeses, 2 nos. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and thank you also to Sergio and the program for being a part of the discussion, answering the questions that we had, and hopefully we'll be able to address this at XCOM in a way that addresses all the concerns that people have raised. We have 2 agenda items that we haven't touched on. I don't know that we have enough time to get through 6.5 now. I don't know if Dwan and Jennifer, what do you think?
I think it depends on if you read the materials. I mean, it should be non-controversial. It's a community justice proposal that the program development impact committee has already reviewed. And it would be the commission signing on that to support that program. If you've read the materials and feel comfortable, I think we can vote, just go straight to a vote. If you haven't, then I think we do. Unfortunately, we won't be able to sign off to give them
I move approval.
I'll second.
Patience moves. Erica seconds. Let's do a roll call vote and see where we get.
Okay. Alikani?
Yes.
Babcock?
Yes.
Blakemore? Campbell?
Yes.
Belkin?
Yes.
Gonzalez? Long?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Morales? Pryor?
Yes.
Pedrosi?
Yes.
Danville? Smith? Stalker? Escobedo?
Yes.
Milrod?
Yes.
Ultroff?
Yes.
Connolly?
Yes.
Great. 14 yeses, 0 nos. Motion passes.
Well, I first of all appreciate that everybody read the materials and was comfortable approving it. Second of all, I think we've set a new high or low in terms of time on an agenda item. So kudos to everybody on that. Although some things do require a little bit more digging, which we certainly did today. So Dawn, I'm going to give it to you for the last agenda item, which I think we could probably cover in 3 minutes.
I could do very quickly. So at the last agenda item in your meeting packet is a list of dates for the commission meeting as well as the committee meeting. One note on the committee meeting is that Erica and Amin are still finalizing committee assignments. So we will email you before the end of the year. So because of that, we are going to hold off on sending you calendar holds for your respective committees. We don't think there's going to be a lot of movement, but there does need to be a little bit of reshuffling to get the right composition in the committees. If there are any commissioners that would like to participate in 2 committees, we usually don't actually do this, but because there's such a need now, we're a little bit short on actually all the committees because the workload is so low. But if you have spare time and you would like 2 committees, please let me know. Otherwise, we will finalize that and send that out. The one thing to note is the February 27th, is that correct, Crystal? Is the planning committee. Right now, it is scheduled to be in San Francisco. However, the executive committee has desire to take it to a different location. We are exploring an option with Judicial Council. If the Judicial Council does not get back to us in the 2 weeks, sorry to put you on the spot, Melanie, we will need to just finalize it for San Francisco and perhaps at another meeting. We can use the Judicial Council space in Sacramento. Sorry, I didn't finish my sentence there. So we will let you know, but just save the date for now for February 27th. The other thing, substantive change for that meeting date. Usually our meetings are for that planning meeting, it's a 12 to 4. We're actually going to modify it to be 10 to 4 instead of 12 to 4, so that we can build in a couple more panels, have a nice long lunch with each other, and do a little bit more for that day.
Perfect. Thank you, Dawn. Okay, thank you all for being here and looking forward to working together on our committees and on our work in the next year. And have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thank you all.
1 minute early, I mean.